Good morning, dear online participants, dear ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning and a very warm welcome from Brussels to Sofia. Dobro utro. My name is Ula Hudina. I'm Deputy Head of Unit for Access to Finance in Commission Department for Industry, Internal Market, Entrepreneurship and SMEs, and I will be your moderator today. As we have a very packed morning with excellent speakers who will present to you the following items, I suggest we really start now. First, you will hear about the InvestEU fund and all the windows. You will hear about the InvestEU Advisory Hub and InvestEU portal. Second, you will also hear about the European Investment Fund and its debt and equity products, and also in more details about the InvestEU call for expression of interest for financial intermediaries, which was published earlier this year in March. Third, we will touch upon funding opportunities from the European Innovation Council for startups and SMEs to develop and scale up game-changing innovations. And last but not least, we will share with you insights how the Single Market Programme and the Enterprise Europe Network can help the businesses in Bulgaria. When we were actually planning this online event in very late 2021, meaning last December, we planned it as online events because we were still amidst COVID wave in order to be sure that we would be able to be with you at least online. But nonetheless, we will try to make this online event, this webinar, as interactive as possible and give you an ample of opportunities to connect with us, to ask questions, and to be as active as the speakers. So, dear participants, we will try to make some of your questions to squeeze into the morning sessions. For this, we will be using Slido, a tool you might already be familiar with, and you can access Slido here on the left screen, if you can see it now, or you can use your smartphone on the browser of your computer, or simply go to slido.com, or quickly scan this QR code that you see on the screen and enter the hashtag EUFinanceDay_Bulgaria. When you're in the Slido app, then you can also vote which questions that you will see on the screen you consider as important, so we can then prioritize them accordingly. And you do this by clicking on thumbs up next to the questions that you will see displayed. Additionally, if we will not squeeze in the question immediately after the presentation, there in the end, as you saw on the program, there will be 4 parallel breakout sessions from 12:45 until 1:15. And there you will be able to directly approach the experts with all your questions. So in case we cannot take your question in the morning session, don't worry, we will take the questions during the question and answer session on 12:45. And you will be able to join those question and answer sessions of your choice by clicking on one of the links displayed at the end of the agenda, which you can find at the event website. And you also got the links earlier this morning via email, or you will be able to click on them on the Slido. Not to forget, we are providing simultaneous interpretation from Bulgarian to English and from English to Bulgarian throughout the whole event. And we would like to thank you already now for the precious help of interpreters throughout the event. And when you connected to the event this morning, you would have been given the choice of the languages you prefer to follow during the live stream. But there is also a toolbar at the bottom of the video window here that you see in front of you, where you can also select the language you prefer. Not to forget to mention, our webinar is recorded, and we will make the recording available a couple of days after the event, and also the presentations will be available at the event website. Finally, but very importantly, after the event, we will be sending you a short survey via email that we would really warmly invite you to complete. This will help us to improve any future events that we will do, and we still have some finance days to go. So thank you in advance for participating in the survey. Now, after all this practical information and housekeeping, we are very much looking to start with the introductory speakers and then with the first sessions. So please welcome my director, dear Merete Clausen, Director for Investment at the European Commission, Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. So the online stage is yours. Thank you, Merete.
Thank you, Ula, and good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to open the EU Finance Days here in Bulgaria. As Ula said, I'm Director of Investment in the European Commission, and investing right is really a main priority for all of us. We are experiencing that unprecedented levels of funding are available from public sources and also from the EU budget to bolster our economies and to counter the economic impacts of the COVID pandemic outbreak and also now of the war in Ukraine. And we have other challenges. On top of all that, we are struggling with high and volatile energy prices and high inflation. And subsidies or grants are needed to tackle the economic fallout of these challenges. But we also need investment, and we need better investment with public sources alongside private. You may have heard about the recovery plan for Europe and the Next Generation EU, which dedicates 800 billion euros to finance the needs of the EU member states for investment and reforms through grants and loans. And today we will tell you more about the InvestEU program, which is our flagship program, or our flagship investment tool, which has also benefited from funding through the recovery plan and through the Next Generation EU. I'll say something more about its priorities, but fundamentally, what this tool does is to channel all these funds to financial partners, to banks and other financial institutions who are in the member states and who are your habitual financial partners and are close to you where you are. This event is part of a series of online meetings which the Commission organizes this year in order to raise awareness for the EU support programs and also to support the InvestEU implementation. So we're here today to tell you more about the InvestEU program and how it can benefit Bulgaria specifically. We are very pleased that the interest from Bulgarian stakeholders in this initiative is very high. We've received over 300 registration requests, and we are very happy to have you all with us here today. And we really hope you will make use of the Commission experts and the other experts who are here today to tell you how to apply for support to your companies and to your projects. InvestEU alone is expected to mobilize more than 372 billion euros in public and private resources in the coming years. It will finance investments in line with the EU's policy priorities. And what are these priorities? Well, it's the Repower EU, which is our plan on how to overcome the current energy prices, the energy price and supply crisis. It's also the European Green Deal, which is our plan to turn around climate change and make Europe a CO2 neutral continent. It's Europe's digital decade, it's our SME strategy, and much more. And what it will do is that it will help de-risk investments and then attract other public and private resources to these priorities. And as I said, we are running the program with a number of implementing partners. You will hear also from some of them today. And we have signed the first agreements with our main implementing partner, the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund. And already now concrete calls for expression of interests for InvestEU products, which can be debt products and equity products. These concrete calls have already been published by the EIF, and we are happy to hear that several Bulgarian financial institutions have already applied for a considerable number of products. On top of that, we have discussions with 18 other implementing partners, including the Bulgarian Development Bank. They are ongoing, and the Commission has already started concluding guarantee agreements with other implementing partners as well. So these are the partners you will be able to turn to and engage with to apply for funding for your projects. And today we'll have information for you about other EU funding programs too. If you are a very early stage company with highly innovative breakthrough ideas, you may get help to develop and to scale up through the European Innovation Council Accelerator. You'll hear more about that from the experts from our executive agency today. You will also hear about the Single Market Program, which has a specific pillar supporting the competitiveness, capacity building, and sustainability of SMEs. So wherever your need is, there should be something interesting for you here today. And I really hope that you will make use of the opportunity to ask questions and get answers from the experts. After all, they're here for you. I wish you all a very informative and interesting session.
Thank you, Merete. Our next introductory speaker is Cvetan Kilianov, acting head of the European Commission representation in Sofia. He has been appointed to this function since September 2019, but already before and in parallel, he has been analyzing and following economic and financial developments in Bulgaria. Cvetan, online stage is yours.
Thank you, Ulla. Скъпи колеги, уважаеми участници, добро утро. Радвам се, че сте избрали да сте тук, а не пред телевизорите и да следите откриването.
Colleagues, I'm very glad that we are together on the day when the Bulgarian parliament is being opened. According to most analyzers, the next 12 months will be quite hard for both the Bulgarian economy and the world economy. In these points in time, in these hardships, access to financing is limited, and European financing becomes even more relevant in such difficult times and becomes more sought after by companies. I believe that today you will hear very important and interesting information. And as you will hear, the European Commission and the European structures have a lot to offer. It was mentioned that the recovery plan, which has allocated over 11 billion levs for Bulgaria, which will ultimately reach the Bulgarian businesses. And it's important to mention two more components which we should have in mind, especially in an environment of increasing demand for financing and higher interest rates. The first option is the possibility to have loans, and 9 billion levs is available for Bulgaria. This is a serious financial resource.
Колкото набиране на средства. И след това през бюджета отново.
And through the budget, it can reach the Bulgarian companies. And secondly, the second option is the Just Transition Fund, which is targeting the decarbonization regions. 2.5 billion are available there to help the businesses and the people to have this transition run smoothly. This transition is underway anyway, and it will be completed in the next couple of years, but this serious financial resource will help us get there faster and easier. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very helpful and very informative and productive day.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Theodor Radno. He is head of the European Investment Bank Group office in Bulgaria. He has been appointed there in March 2021, and he has structured finance experience from over 8 years before working for the European Investment Fund. Theodor, please.
Thank you, Ulla. Thank you. Уважаема госпожо Клаузен, уважаеми господин Киланов, скъпи колеги и гости.
Distinguished colleagues and guests, I'm very glad to be able to address you at this interesting and meaningful event and share with you the activity of the European Investment Bank in Bulgaria, an activity which has a long history since the 90s and contracting over 6 billion euro. the support that the European Investment Group in Bulgaria, banking group in Bulgaria, makes it rank third among the countries of the EU, showing how active we've been. Let me give you some examples of the impact of our activity. For 2021, the group lent guarantees in the realm of 950 million, 830 million of which were dedicated to a key initiative, the European Guarantee Fund, set up with the involvement of 22 countries and the European Investment Bank, and acted as a safeguard shield for those companies which were most affected by the pandemic. With the assistance of the Commission and a more flexible regime of this instrument became reality in a very critical moment in time, Bulgaria being one of the countries which have and ranked second with the largest number of net beneficiaries, and about 2.7 billion euro will be attracted. Last year, the bank continued giving support to sustainable infrastructure, such as the Sofia Airport, 40 million euro, supported under the mechanism of the European Commission for connecting Europe. And in addition to the investment activities, it's important to mention the consultancy services that we've been offering, which are a major activity that we have been performing, Bulgaria being a very active country. European Investment Bank and the European Commission have been working together on several initiatives, one of them being joint support to the Jaspers initiative and the European Consultancy Advisory Council partnership between the bank and the Commission, which is a portal to an access of a complex package of advisory and consultancy services. And since it was set up, over 120 applications were reviewed thanks to our involvement. The Bulgarian underground received 450 million, and the bank supported the underground with another 260 million. And now let me say a few words of what's ahead of us. The financial instruments through InvestEU have been around since March this year. The European Investment Fund, our subsidiary, and the main partners of the European Commission have been our main partners. In addition, for the Recovery and Resilience Facility has allocated 330 million euro to SMEs, which will be managed by the European Investment Fund. This resource will be divided into two areas, 150 million into guarantee instruments targeting the banks, bringing an additional resource through the so-called member state compartment, and additional 180 million through new instruments for investments. The Bulgarian economy will have 1 to 1.5 million until 2026, and this will be a multiplier of the initial financial resource 3 times, a major difference from our previous financial instruments of 10 years ago, where the focus was support to more traditional smaller businesses under the initiative SME and the Jeremy program. We have a stronger focus now on innovations, digitization, green economy, circular economy. And this focus on innovations has been assessed as critical for Bulgaria, because this will bring about considerable influx of private funding in order to improve their competitiveness and support the transition to a knowledge-based economy in order to strengthen Bulgaria's position as a humble innovator. In venture capital, where Bulgaria has had its successes with innovative startups, many other economies, including in Eastern Europe, have been developing much faster, as venture capital being a proportion of GDP. Bulgaria ranks the last. Both public and private funds should be increased considerably. And this is a critical step in the right direction. And last but not least, it is extremely relevant for the economy to start the sustainable guarantee, which will aim to encourage the lending of investments to the energy sector in order to have increased, accelerated transition to low carbon industries. This instrument will be extremely important in order to assess and to measure the carbon footprint, which will result in financing. Our door is wide open for all market players, and we look forward to having more opportunities for discussing them. I wish you a constructive and inspiring discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Theodore. Thank you. We are coming now to our first session where my colleagues will explain you about the InvestEU program. Our first speaker is colleague Michael Veit. Michael is a policy officer in Directorate General for Economic and Financial Affairs at the European Commission. He has been mainly involved in the setup and governance of this new InvestEU program, and he is also a member of the Secretariat of the InvestEU Investment Committee. Michael, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ulla. And good morning to everybody from Luxembourg. So I'm based in Luxembourg, and yes, indeed, working on the implementation of InvestEU. I'm chairing the Secretariat of the Investment Committee, and I'm particularly happy that a colleague from the Investment Committee itself, Svetoslava Georgieva, can give some insights later on, in addition to our presentations here. So InvestEU is based on the experience of a predecessor program called Investment for Europe, FC or Juncker Plan. It's a financial instrument that was, and also InvestEU is a financial instrument. That means it's not providing grants, but its loans are investments in funds or guarantees. So with this scheme, we are somehow make the money working. So we, the Commission, giving a budgetary guarantee, and the implementing partners giving further money to this, and then we manage or will manage to attract private investments. So under FC, it was, let's say, successful. So with a budgetary guarantee of 33.5 billion, we supported EIB group investments of almost 100 billion, and which generated mobilized investments of 525 billion. So this is let's say a large amount, and we have supported, for example, affordable flats, more than almost 500,000. We had supported strongly renewable energy and also energy efficiency for 10 million households, and, for example, waste treatment, better waste treatment for 33 million people. Next slide, please. So FC was also successful in Bulgaria. So we managed to mobilize 4.7 billion of investments in Bulgaria. So with that, Bulgaria is number 3 among the InvestEU member states comparing to the GDP. And it also it all was implemented by the EIB and the EIF. Together with also national financial intermediary, and we managed to support 9 projects, infrastructure projects, for volume of over 1 billion investments, and we supported many small and medium-sized enterprises, so 21,000, and triggered 3.6 billion of investments, so loans and investment into funds. So that was the predecessor. So we think and we are sure that it was successful, and the InvestEU program is the next generation of that kind of approach. Next slide, please. So yeah, here we are. So the InvestEU program are just started and going until 2027. Has 3 components. First is the fund, that's the money. Then it's the technical advice, the advisory hub, and the InvestEU portal, which is a showcase to display your project if you're a project promoter. So again, we want to attract private investments with this program. So Merete already mentioned, so we have immense needs for investment in many sectors, and the InvestEU program would help there. So next slide, please. It's already mentioned, so it's part of the Next Generation EU together with the Recovery and Resilience Facility, and it helps let's say, on the big challenges that we have in the moment. So the shift to the growth and green growth, and also help to support the digital sectors, strengthen EU leadership in research development, supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, of course, and the startup ecosystem in Europe. You know, this program was designed or set up in the middle of the COVID crisis in 2020. Now, we have even a larger crisis, let's say, caused by the Russian invasion to Ukraine, and also here InvestEU will help to deal with the situation. So it will it could help to help enterprises which are hit by the crisis and all the aftermath. It's connected with the, let's say, energy crisis. So we have just recently set up REPowerEU, which should help to increase the energy efficiency, save energy, but also reduce the dependency from Russian fossil fuel. And here also InvestEU could help. We have a large part in renewable energy investments. And how should I say? I mean, above all, this war is also a dire human tragedy, and InvestEU also tries to help here to deal with the social consequences, so helping refugees in housing projects, and also giving on a bit medium term training officers of us. So that means also on this part, on this side, on the very actual problem, we are about to help there. And yes, we are up and running. So we could, let's say, intervene immediately with this program. Next slide, please. So just said that's the financial arm, the InvestEU fund. So we have 26 billion of budgetary guarantee. Again, no grants, only loans, equity, and guarantees. And we're going to mobilize 372 billion across Europe at the end of the program. It's implemented by financial partners. So the major one is the EIB group, EIB and EIF, which will implement 75% of the programs, but already mentioned other implementing partners will help to implement the program. We have an independent investment committee which approves the projects. And we are live since March 2022. And we have, in the meantime, more than 50 operations approved. It's not just, let's say, single operations. They are framework operations, which allows to EIF to have sub-projects. And already also in Bulgaria, we have dozens of sub-projects. So the EIF have in the pipeline helping Bulgarian enterprises there on this. So this will come really rather soon, and the EIF colleagues will tell you a bit more later on. Next slide, please. So we have four policy windows: sustainable infrastructure, research, SMEs, and we also have a social window to support also the social points and deal with the social problems that we have all over Europe. So this is new, and we want to, let's say, direct at least 10% of the investment in this sector. So the colleagues from the other departments of the Commission will give you further details on the windows later on. Next slide, please. So the member state compartment that had already been mentioned, that's something important which helps to this EU compartment that I have mentioned with the central budgetary guarantee. You can use sources from the structural funds and also from the recovery and resilience facility to set up and have then ring-fenced investments for Bulgaria, and this will really, let's say, increase the impact of InvestEU in your country. We have a first contract signed with Romania, and there are also some deals there. So with Bulgaria, it's very close. When I understand right, could be even signed this week, and then this money will be taken implemented by the Bulgarian Development Bank alongside with the EIB, EIF. So you will hear some news in the near future about that, and this will help to further boost the investments in Bulgaria. Just my last two slides, the InvestEU advisory hub. So that was talked about the money before. So, but also technical advice is important and needed to help project promoters to structure their projects financially, but also technically. And it's consisting of a network of advice. It's also centrally located at the European Investment Bank, and just go on this website, InvestEU Advisory Hub, and you will get further guidance. And finally, we have the InvestEU portal, which is managed, next slide please, managed directly by the European Commission, so in my unit. In fact, that's a showcase for project promoters. If you are looking for private finance, apart from if you have EU funding or not, you can upload your project there, and it's then made accessible to a community of international investors. So hundreds of investors are using this portal. And we had also a success story. So many of the projects found investors, and we have 1,300 projects on the portal in the moment, and also among them also many from Bulgaria. So that was my part, the three main components: the fund, the advisory hub, and the portal. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your presentation, the general presentation on the InvestEU. As Michael explained, the InvestEU has 4 windows, and now my 4 fellow colleagues from the Commission will in depth explain you these 4 windows. We start with Samuel Ben-Sussin. He is Policy Officer at the European Commission Directorate General for Mobility and Transport, and he is responsible for EU financial instruments. Samuel, please.
Thank you. Morning all, quite impressed by the level of attendance, so that's very good news. So I'll present to you the infrastructure window. I'm from DG Transport and Mobility. Together with DG for Energy, we are co-chairing this window. What does that mean? That InvestEU is very much of a policy driven instrument. So for each window, we have chair DGs trying to coordinate the policy alignment of the window. If we go to the slide on the policy context of InvestEU overall, you see a strong reference here is the Fit for 55 package. So basically cutting down emission by 55% by 2030 on the way to the net zero by 2050. How do we want to do this? We want to do this obviously in a fair, in a cost-efficient and in a competitive way. Fair, it links back to the just transition. Competitive way, it means helping businesses to grasp new opportunities coming from decarbonization. If you look at the graph, I mean, you can see basically 3 main components for all the proposals supporting the Fit for 55. You have one element on transport with alternative fuel regulation, Fuel EU for maritime, refuel aviation. You have a component also on energy, renewable energy production, energy efficiency, and then components on climate and environment for bioeconomy, for CO2 emissions. So this is the overall policy context. Keeping in mind, obviously, the recent development, the issuance of REPowerEU and these kind of things that were mentioned already. If we go to the next slide, what does that mean for SIV? SIV stands for the Sustainable Infrastructure Window, so green, digital, and strategic. One thing is that it's part of the European Green Deal, the point being to bring more green investments, notably here in the infrastructure sector. The point of InvestEU too is to bring additionality. Additionality, thanks to InvestEU, we want to bring investments that otherwise would not materialize, and we want also to do this for the just transition. A critical component for infrastructure is the green component. If you look at the InvestEU program overall, climate target 30%, for infrastructure is 60%. So we are quite ambitious and we think it's very much needed. And these climate and environmental targets are linked to the EU taxonomy. Maybe I'll say a word when we go to the product of InvestEU. And another component is digital and strategic. So you have deployment of future technologies, and there is also a subchapter on strategic investment for critical infrastructure, defense, space. This is for the overall policy context and overall background for the infrastructure window. If we go to the next slide, we can see, next slide, please. Yeah, perfect. If we can see basically which are the policy objectives that we've set up against this background and the targeted recipients. So as I say, sustainability and decarbonization. Also a focus on the European cross-border infrastructure, be it for energy, for transport, for telecom, and also synergies between the 3 sectors. And then we have deployment of innovative technologies to the market. I'll come to this when presenting the overall product. And as I said, strategic investment. In terms of financial recipients, we have standalone, corporate, and special purpose vehicles. Again, depending on the type of financial products that I will be presenting in the next slide. Yes, next slide, please. Thanks. So this gives you an overall view of the financial products that are deployed by the EIB and the EAF for sustainable infrastructure. You have two big families, one being the debt product deployed by the EIB. So you have what we call general debt. There you have all the main infrastructure sectors. This is where the eligibility is kind of the broader for the debt product. You have obviously transport, energy, environmental resources, and also tourism, decarbonization of industry, bioeconomy. So you see it's very large. We have what we brand future technologies with digital, space, and defense. Obviously, telecom is also in the picture, and the thing is that under the general debt, the EIB, which implements it, can cope for various risk level and types of lenders. Aside from this, we have what we call thematic product. Please, back one slide. Yeah, thanks. Thematic product, here it's for the most risky investment that we see. The investment that allows to accelerate decarbonization, that allows to accelerate sustainability. So you see it's high risk and high policy added value. And here it's really at the junction between the sustainable infrastructure window and the research and infrastructure window. So what we want to be sure is that you as project promoter, you don't have to go to various places, or you don't end up with a project being in a gap between two support programs. It's really a seamless approach to support both technological risk and market risks, also for small new companies. So it's really here to accelerate. And another thematic product that's PF4E. That's basically a big focus on energy efficiency, which is very much on the agenda, also in the current context, and for renewable energy. So again, to accelerate and allow basically the EIB to go to very risky operation. So that's for the EIB. Then for the EAF, I'll just say a quick word because obviously it will be presented in more detail. But under the infrastructure window, we have the Climate and Infrastructure Fund, which is basically an equity fund with also a coverage of all the main infrastructure sectors. And we have the Sustainability Guarantee to be deployed via financial intermediaries. And here, you may have seen, we have supported the development of the use case document, which translates the taxonomy, and that links back to the environmental targets that we have under the window. That's for the part of financial product. If we go to the next and last slide on advisory. So you see with InvestEU, we really try to provide a comprehensive package with various products and with advisory. For now, there are two big initiatives for advisory for infrastructure under InvestEU. You have the Sustainable Infrastructure Advisory overall, which again covers basically all the sectors, all the infrastructures of the window. You see them noted here. There again, you see the ambition in terms of climate target, with 40% of the assignment needed to contribute to our climate target. And linked to this, there is extra budget also from the LIFE program for those assignments linked especially to environmental performance. And on the side, there is also another advisory initiative called ELENA. So here the focus is on energy efficiency and renewable energy. So you see it's broad coverage with some extra on the energy sector. The point is really to offer to businesses comprehensive support in terms of their business profile, their risk profile, the sectors they operate in the infrastructure world, and to accompany them with technical assistance and advisory. That would be it on my side.
Thank you, Samuel, for presenting the Sustainable Infrastructure Window. Before we continue, let me remind you that the whole session is interpreted simultaneously from Bulgarian to English and from English to Bulgarian. And you can choose on the web stream that you follow, the direct connection that you follow. Bottom right, there is an audio icon where you can switch from one language to another, because we just got some questions, so I wanted to clarify this. And let us now continue with the next window. Evita Galliano, our colleague, Policy Officer for Social Finance at the Director General for Employment at the Commission. She and her colleagues are responsible for social investments and skills window. Evita, please, go ahead.
Hello, good morning. I will present to you the smaller window of the InvestEU fund with 2.8 billion in EU guarantee, but still a very important one as it covers the social dimension. As you can see on the first slide, the social window, it is framed within the principles of the European Pillar of Social Rights. The European Pillar of Social Rights has 20 key principles and rights essential for the fair and well-functioning labour markets and social protection systems. The action plan translates these principles into action, and there we can see in the middle of the slide we have 3 main targets to be reached by 2030. The targets are at least 78% of the working age population to be in employment by 2030. At least 60% of all the adults should be participating in a training every year, and a reduction of at least 15 million in the number of people being at poverty or social exclusion. Within these principles and the eligible policy areas of the InvestEU regulation, then we expect the biggest bulk of the investments going in the 3 areas that you can see in the blue windows on the slide above. So the first one is social infrastructure, following the EFSI investments in this area. And here we include education and training infrastructure, social infrastructure and services, including affordable social housing, as well as healthcare infrastructure. I will not go into detail in this policy area, as it is expected mainly to be covered by direct and not intermediated financing. The second policy area is microfinance, social enterprises, social impact and innovation, continuing the successful implementation of the EASY program and the EFSI social impact pilots. Then we have also in the middle education, training and skills, building on the EFSI skills pilot. Now the EU guarantee, it is expected will be used to guarantee both debt, equity and quasi-equity products supporting the policy areas that I just mentioned. Now we will move to the next slide, and I will go and present quickly the main products of the social window as agreed with the European Investment Fund, that is the main partner for our window. First, you can see it is a microfinance. On this program, in this programming period, we increased the ticket size of microfinance from the 30,000 that it was before to 50,000 to reflect the increased needs of the sector. The objective of the microfinance is to support people, persons in vulnerable situations to start up or develop a micro enterprise. The aim is here the social and mainly the financial inclusion of vulnerable groups. Microfinance is linked to the provision of non-financial services, business development services such as mentoring, coaching, training, etc. This support has been proved in some cases to be even more important than the actual financial support. The second condition is to sign up or endorse the European Code of Conduct for microcredit provision, depending on if we speak about a non-bank or a banking institution, respectively. And here the product is an intermediated debt product. If we move to the next slide, the next policy area, it is the policy area of social enterprises. We define social enterprises with their three dimensions as it is defined in the ESF Plus regulation. The first dimension is a social impact dimension. Social enterprises have measurable social positive impact, and here we account also for the environmental dimension. And this impact is a primary objective. Profit generation comes secondary. The second dimension is the profit redistribution dimension. Profits are first and foremost used to achieve the social objectives. Third comes the governance dimension. The social enterprises are managed in an entrepreneurial in an accountable and transparent manner by involving all the stakeholders. And the objective here is to support the niche market of social enterprises as it was announced in the Social Economy Action Plan. Here also in this programming period, we had another novelty. We increased the ticket size from 500K to 2 million also to reflect the increased needs of the sector. And the products that are offered here are intermediated debt and equity products. Moving now to the next policy area, the social impact and innovation policy area. This will be also supported via an intermediated equity product. And here the objective is to support what we call impact-driven enterprises. The main objective of impact-driven enterprises is again the pursuit of social impact, and we include also the environmental dimension. And here the positive social impact comes at par with the financial risk, the financial return profile. Now, the product here includes also innovative delivery methods, such as the social outcome contracting, and the way that we define social impact is linked to the 20 principles of the European Pillar of Social Rights that I mentioned earlier. Moving now to the next slide, education, training, and skills. The objective here is to promote 4 different types of final beneficiaries that you can see in the slide. The first one is individuals willing to undertake an eligible educational program. So here we speak about students and learners that they would like to finance themselves their studies. The second possibility is SMEs or entities intending to finance the upskilling or reskilling of their employees. The third category is entities that they have the focus of their economic activity in the field of education, training, and skills. And the last one is to develop the broader ecosystem linked to education, training, and skills. Here we target entities that provide services linked to, for example, student housing or early education and training, etc. So these entities may also be eligible to receive a loan that would be then covered by guaranteed by the EU. And the delivery mechanism here is an intermediated debt product. Moving to the next slide on the capacity building product, here we support with subordinated loans financial providers in the areas of microfinance, social enterprise, skills and education finance providers to build their institutional capacity through subordinated loans. And you can see the 3 possibilities, either for organizational development and expansion, or strengthening the institutional capabilities, or the capital relief. And then the last slide is the InvestEU Advisory Hub. And here the objective is to show you that all the initiatives that I mentioned earlier are accompanied by advisory support for the financial intermediaries. And this includes project advisory, capacity building, as well as market development and awareness raising. Voila. So this is it on my side. Thanks a lot. And I'm very sorry for the background noise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evita. Now we quickly go to the next speaker because we are slightly behind the schedule. Our next speaker is my dear colleague Albina Taneva. He's Policy Officer in the Access to Finance Unit, the Commission Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs. And she will introduce you to the SME window of the InvestEU. Albina, please.
Благодаря, Ула. Добро утро и от мен. Казвам се Албена Танева.
Hello, good morning. I work at the Access to Financing on the General Directorate Internal Market with the European Commission. Our department has been responsible, among other things, with a component for SMEs under the InvestEU program. We are in charge of strategic planning, developing financial products, and negotiations with our financial partners, and monitoring of the utilization of the products in the course of implementation of InvestEU. I'd like to apologize for drawing up my presentation in English, but
the sake of good order, can I have the next slide, please? So as Michael already mentioned earlier this morning, this is a very short overview of the InvestEU program. It's composed of three components. The biggest one is the InvestEU fund, which is guaranteeing equity and debt investments into the EU economy. We also have the advisory hub, which is proposing capacity building and technical support for project preparations, amongst many other things. And also the InvestEU portal, which is meeting the project promoters seeking for finance and those providing this finance. The InvestEU fund brings under one single umbrella all the EU-level financial instruments that were active in the previous MFF. So, for example, as regards SME support, we have the COSME Loan Guarantee Facility or the Equity Facility for Growth. We had the Innofin SME Guarantee Facility or the Guarantee Facility for the cultural and creative sectors. And all this financing now is brought together under one single umbrella for the SME window of InvestEU, which will bring one single set of rules and hopefully will ease the administrative burden, including different reporting obligations, the need to comply with different eligibility criteria for all of you as financial intermediaries. The InvestEU fund is, as you already saw, deploying on 26 billion euros EU budgetary guarantee with the aim to mobilize private and public investments into the EU economy of in the next years amounting to more than 370 billion euros. 30% of this amount needs to be, at least 30% of this amount needs to be dedicated to climate and environmental objectives. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Yeah, thank you. So I would like to do some more deep dive into the SME window. As I mentioned, our unit in DigiGrow is the policy chair of this window. So our overarching narrative is the SME strategy, which was adopted by the Commission in March 2020. It highlights the importance of supporting SMEs for the digital and green transition, and also points to the SME window as one of the core tools to achieve this objective. The creation of more integrated, well-developed and overarching EU Capital Markets Union is another objective of the SME strategy, where we can contribute with financing under the SME window as well. Then in May 2021, we had the update of the EU Industrial Strategy, which speaks about the need for solvency support for companies hit by the COVID crisis, and also the need to recapitalize SMEs. And again, under the SME window of InvestEU, as you will see later on the slides, we can provide that. Next slide, please. So how does the InvestEU implementation work in practice? We, from the side of the European Commission, conclude guarantee agreement with so-called implementing partners. Our most important implementing partner is the EIB group, composed of the EIB and the EIF, which is entitled to using 75% of the EU guarantee. In the case of the SME window, we work exclusively with European Investment Fund because of their mandate to support SMEs. So we conclude a guarantee agreement with EF, or for the other 25%, we can have international financial institutions, national promotional banks, as is the case for the Bulgarian Development Bank, for example. Then these institutions, on their end, they can either launch calls for expression of interests to select financial intermediaries, and these financial intermediaries can be commercial banks, can be national promotional banks, can be microfinance providers, equity funds, venture capital funds, guarantee societies. And then these financial intermediaries can provide equity or lending to SMEs and small mid-caps, which are the final recipients we have under the SME window. Another possibility is for the NPBs, for example, to provide lending directly to SMEs without using financial intermediaries. Next slide, please. So I would like to give you a very brief overview of the guarantee products we have agreed with the European Investment Fund. As I mentioned, they are our main implementing partner for the SME window. And then my EF colleagues will later on give you more practical details on how does it work. So first of all, we have several guarantee products with EF. The SME competitiveness one, to start with, is basically the continuation of the COSME loan guarantee facility we had in the previous MFF. So it's meant to facilitate access to finance to SMEs, and also provide them better conditions in terms of longer maturities or lower collateral, or push financial intermediaries to support risky SMEs that they would have not otherwise supported in the absence of the EU guarantee. A novelty with InvestEU is that we have included under this product a solvency support instrument, which is meant to help SMEs which were hit by the COVID crisis, meaning that if they were if they were viable companies before the crisis, but they have suffered more than 5% drop in their annual turnover, then they would be eligible for solvency support. Another instrument we have with the EF, which is a continuation of previous financial instruments, is the cultural and creative sector guarantee. It's basically a continuation of the CCS guarantee facility we had before. So it's meant to facilitate access to finance to companies which are active in these sectors. We also have innovation and digitalization guarantee product. That is the successor of the Innofin SMEC in the old MFF. So I suppose most of you are aware that it's again facilitating access to finance to companies that meet certain innovation criteria. Here we also have added a digitalization angle, so we can support access to finance to SMEs and small mid-caps that want to digitalize their business processes. A completely novelty product is the sustainability guarantee. It's oriented towards supporting working capital in investments of SMEs or small mid-caps that are already considered green, either because they have registered an eco-label price, green patent, or they have more than 90% of their annual turnover in green activities. Or we can also support companies which want to transition to greener and more sustainable practices and undertake some energy efficiency, renewable energy investments, investments in circular economy, in water protection, biodiversity, etc. As I mentioned, our financial intermediaries here can be commercial banks, can be guarantee institutions, can be leasing companies, just to mention the most common ones. Next slide, please. As regards the equity products we have with EF, we have one joint equity product between our window and the research, innovation and digitalization window, and it's composed of several verticals. First of all, we want to strengthen the capital markets union, so we provide support for equity financing, which is going into hybrid debt equity funds, growth and expansion funds. We also have a climate and environmental solutions vertical, very similar to the guarantee side with the sustainable guarantee products. We have on the equity side the possibility to support equity investments in green mobility, in energy solutions, in decarbonization, environmental sustainability, blue economy, agriculture, natural capital preservation. Another vertical we have is equity investments in enabling sectors and technologies, meaning sectors which are important for the strategic autonomy of the EU, like space and defense, semiconductors, chips, very high interest. We also observe in life science and health equity investments under this vertical. Then another possibility is to support investments in digital and the cultural and creative sectors, where we can support funds investing in blockchain, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, etc. We have several overarching objectives for the equity products with EF. That is to stimulate more gender-smart investments, meaning investments in more balanced teams and in more women-led companies. Also support IPOs, investments in countries classified as modern and emerging innovators, part of which is also Bulgaria, and more scale-up investments into companies wishing to expand and grow. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide I wanted to present you, just to highlight to your attention that our unit is also responsible for the access to finance website, where financial intermediaries are encoded, which have concluded guarantee agreements with us and with implementing partners under InvestEU. So at the moment, the site is populating with the financial intermediaries which were active in the old MFF financial instruments. But gradually, with the advancement of the deployment of InvestEU, you will be able to find on the website which financial intermediaries have agreements with us, and where you can actually, if you are an SME or a small mid-cap, where you can go to ask for lending or equity support. So this is all that I wanted to present to you. I wish you a good event and happy to take questions in the dedicated sessions.
Thank you very much, Albina, for the clear presentation on the SME window. Now we are coming to the fourth InvestEU window, covering investments into research, innovation, and digitization. I would like to introduce Rebecca de Sancha Mayoral, who works as an investment manager in the European Innovation Council and SME Executive Agency. Rebecca, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll start with the first slide. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Yeah, thank you. So the reason why we have a window for the research, innovation and digitization and the policy context is because we want these innovations and technologies to go to the market. And we need to help these innovations to get to the market. You see from the slide where we are in terms of innovation in Europe and the research and development investment gap. So yeah, you can go to this next slide, please. Yeah, so the policy priorities are four. We've heard from the previous speakers and very much aligned, as Albena was saying, with the SME window. For the areas that regards exactly the research and innovation window are green, digital, health, and strategic. On the green, I would like to highlight energy, mobility, low carbon solutions, which we know are very important today with the energy transition. Also circular economy, bioeconomy, climate, some that I will mention in digital, artificial intelligence, high performance computing, cybersecurity, microprocessors, the Internet of Things, 5G. So we have a number of elements. It is very important also the research and innovation window in health, like vaccines and therapeutics and diagnosis, and innovating in the digitizing the health and healthcare systems. On the strategic part, we've heard also before, there are some elements similar to the other window, which are space and defense and key enabling technologies. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so on the general product that regards the EIB, which are the objectives? So to de-risk investments in research and innovation and to transfer those results to the market, as I was saying before. So to support fast-growing innovative companies and to bring these new technologies and products and business models to the market. On the objectives that we were saying before, green, digital, health, and strategic sectors. Which type of funding? As we've heard before, they are in the way of loans, warranties, venture debt, covering typically 50% of the total R&I project cost. And the final recipients, it can be standalone promoters, SMEs, startups, corporate projects, universities, tech transfer offices, higher education, or research centers. Also research infrastructures and innovation and digitization agencies, accelerators and incubators. If you can go to the next slide, please. So on the thematic products, we find under this window two areas mainly, the innovation investments and the green investment facility. And then the innovation investment, we highlight sectors regarding health, strategic digital technologies, key enabling technologies, and in relation to the projects with high risk and policy value, of course, according to all the policy elements that we've mentioned. So where the risk is linked to successful development of, for instance, a compound, a drug, or a medical device, and its commercialization. And it's also important, the research and development intensive solutions and technologies. On the area of green investment facility, we have sectors like energy and low carbon solutions, mobility, circular economy, or bioeconomy, natural capital, and green infrastructure. The projects with high risk, again, and policy value can be, for instance, early demonstration projects targeting non-mature technologies, business models, or manufacturing processes with high risk deployment, or first phases of this commercial rolling out of innovative technologies and services. If you can go to the next slide, please. So beyond these products, if it has been mentioned before in the other windows, we have advisory initiatives. And just to give you an idea, we have the project advisory, the capacity building, or gender initiatives. On the project advisory, I would like to highlight that the help of For instance, the project promoters in the preparation of investable business proposals, improving investment readiness of companies from various sectors and other entities, on the capacity building to strengthen the ability and the willingness of various financial and other intermediaries to develop and support finance projects in a specific sector for those specific activities and different types of financing. On the gender smart financing, that this is quite new and it was important to include under InvestEU, is supporting and enhancing the access to finance for female-led companies and women innovators that, as we know, have very low numbers. So that's the reason why it's been included as one of the elements of the advisory initiatives. And with this, yeah, I need to thank you and to give you back the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. As our colleague Michael mentioned in the general presentation on the InvestEU, there is an important body of the InvestEU governance, namely the Independent Investment Committee, which approves the use of the EU guarantee for financing and investment operations proposed by the implementing partners. And I'm extremely pleased to welcome here Svetoslava Georgieva, who is a permanent member of the InvestEU Investment Committee, and she's also deputy chair and member of the management board of the Union for Private Economic Enterprise, a nationwide employees organization in Bulgaria. And Svetla, she has a vast experience in the financial sector and also in the EU institutions. So Svetla, the virtual floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ula. Thank you very much for the introduction. I switched to Bulgarian for the purposes of my presentation. Здравейте от мен.
Hello everyone, dear colleagues, dear guests. It's a pleasure for me to be here, to be part of this event. First, I'd like to congratulate us and thank you to Ula specifically and also the whole team from the General Directorate, Internal Market and Enterprise of SME to organize this very important event for Bulgarian business and for all the projects that are looking for funding in Bulgaria. I'll try to be very brief and very clear in relation to what we do in InvestEU. So our colleagues were very detailed in the general presentation of our program. I would like to just say that my role is within the Independent Investment Committee. I'm one of the permanent members of this committee, and our role is to approve projects who have been supported by the European Union guarantees. We approve the granting of these guarantees who support the projects and allow for the projects to become a reality. Our investment committee was established last year, but as Michael mentioned already, we started this year. We started approving project in March this year, and up till September, we managed to approve already more than 50 projects. So our activity and funding by the InvestEU fund has been organized within 4 windows, as we mentioned, or 4 priority areas for financing. These are, we can see it on the next slide. Can you please turn to the next slide? These are our different parts: sustainable infrastructure, research, development, innovation, and digitization, small and medium enterprises, social investment and skills. Most of our projects that we have supported by our guarantees already have been directed towards research and development and small and medium enterprises. Within these 4 priorities area has been organized our activities at investment committee. The next slide, please. The next slide, we will talk about management of our InvestEU fund. Our investment fund, this is our management body. We meet in Luxembourg. We 6 people, six members within our board in 4 different configuration, and each configuration approves different projects within different areas, different priority areas. For example, sustainable financing. In this 6-member composition, 4 permanent members are included within this 6-member composition, and 2 experts are also join our board or our council, depending on the specific area that we are about to be discussing. And our function is to approve the use of this guarantee. So for each project or for each group of projects that have been presented to us by the partner banks, apart from the investment committee, the fund InvestEU has also a management board. The management board meets once every few months, and it includes representatives of European institution, European Investment Bank, and also a few other development banks which support this program for implementing these projects. And their functions is to manage and to monitor the implementation of the program. And what is different from the Juncker plan, for those of you who know it, is that InvestEU, we have also an advisory hub. This advisory hub or advisory board has a very useful function, and it supports the management board and the commission by giving feedback for the development of the program, for the funding of the project at a member state level, at a bank partner level. So there is one representative of each member state, there's one representative of from each bank partner, as well as the European Economic and Social Committee and the Committee of Regions. And the business also can give feedback of what is really happening. Next slide, please. So, on the next slide, I will try to explain briefly how exactly we're financing and how exactly we approve different projects. Thank you very much to Albena for her presentation. And InvestEU is a guarantee which is granted by the European Union budget. It can be supplemented by the member states' resources as well through the national wallet. The European Commission signs agreements with the bank partners, and the European Investment Bank plays a very important role, which is responsible for the implementation of the 75% of the InvestEU budget. And the Plan Juncker, in the Plan Juncker, the European Investment Bank was the only partner for the implementation. Here, 25% of the budget, other bank partners will also be involved. As it was already, the Bulgarian Bank for Development, as it was clarified already, it will participate with a national wallet as well, and also other development banks in Europe and other international finance institution. The European Bank for Development will also participate soon. They will grant funding directly, usually large funding for projects, for infrastructure projects, or for large corporative projects, or through intermediaries. This is usually how the European Investment Fund works, through local investment, local commercial banks, and through local microfinancing institution, venture capitalists, risk capital funds. They usually fund small companies, small and medium enterprises. The approval of this project happens at a few different levels. Of course, the bank partners, they generate a lot of projects, they analyze the projects, they do risk assessment, due diligence, of course, all these standard processes. And after that, of course, the investment approval comes to grant the guarantee. The European Commission, as it was mentioned already, checks the projects, of course, the eligibility of the projects according to the policies of the European Union and other regulations and conditions. After that, the bank partners present the projects before the investment committee of approval, and we receive a lot of documents about the financial structure of the project, about the objectives of the funding, and as a whole, why it is necessary this financial guarantee by the European budget, and why also this project can be very good for reaching different objectives, like the objectives for the Green Deal and taxonomy as well. Discussion is very dynamic. We exchange comments. We talk to the bank partner teams that have been developed these projects. We vote by majority usually. So the projects are approved or rejected. If 4 of the votes are for the project, usually the projects are approved or rejected. The next slide, please.
При отпускането на гаранцията, ние
When we grant this guarantee, we need to meet a lot of important principles. On one side, our role, as well as the role of the European Commission, is to follow, to meet the main rules and regulation of the Commission for granting this funding. For example, the rules for public support, for public finances. The beneficiaries can be only economically viable or solvent companies according to the international standards. The size of the funding needs to be larger than the guarantee and needs to be also larger than what it should have been given as a financing on a normal market principle. We are talking about the leverage effect here. Two of the important principles is that the project needs to address the market failures. They have to support the lack of financing for some of the end beneficiaries. Also, an important principle is the additionality. The principle of additionality. Can we switch to the next slide, please?
According to the principle of additionality that we adhered, according to the principle of additionality, each project, when the bank partners send a proposal for financing, they should be able to prove that market financing for such projects could not be accomplished in the same size without the European guarantee. These are high-risk projects because which may be in their early stage in development or in risky areas according to the market. Long-term financing, for instance, 20 years span for infrastructure projects, in some cases including at a green stage, generally providing access to financial projects which are not available for certain projects. For example, projects for development of hydrogen technology. Maybe an example that we of projects that we support with our guarantee, or in areas or in sectors where there is no access to mezzanine financing or longer-term financing. This, by means of this principle, we mobilize additional private financing to back up the public financing.
На следващия слайд
I will now show you how far we've reached, although we started recently. The results for 2022 as of September are quite advanced. We have approved 51 projects that have been supported with guarantee or utilize 175 billion euro based on the budget goals for 2022, which take into account with the next generation instrument deadline accounts for 88% of the total goal, of the total target has been achieved with projects through the European Investment Bank, and we have 115% overachieving our targets. Projects vary in the energy sector, sustainable infrastructure, RES, energy efficiency in various sectors and industries, sustainable water supply and sewerage, sustainable transport, telecommunications in remote areas, educational infrastructure, as well as many projects for SMEs and innovations, including in the area of education or niche projects. On the left-hand side pie chart, you can see that 72% of the guarantee of 7.75 billion euros has been a guarantee supporting SMEs projects, as well as projects in R&D and innovations and digitization, which is commendable in proportion. In terms of geographical distribution, a lot of the projects, 33 of them, are implemented in more than one country. 8 countries have been involved, have benefited from individual projects, and many more will follow queue, including in Bulgaria, through intermediaries, and we expect to see the first direct beneficiaries. This slide shows some specific examples of projects supported by InvestEU. For example, 80 million euros of financing from EIB were allocated to building kindergartens and schools in Finnish municipalities, and also bridge financing for RES projects developed by small and medium-sized entrepreneurs in Spain and Portugal. 100 million euro framework loan was extended by the EIB, or expanding an optic network in Poland in remote areas. It has a significant impact for regional development. Very interesting strategies and niche investment strategies. I urge you to look up the InvestEU webpage. Another example is the investment in startup companies, in new technologies, educational sector, or the so-called blue economy, as well as other niche strategies. You will find a link in the presentation which will take you to these examples that you can study more thoroughly. My last and final slide is a summary of what will follow in the next couple of months. Very actively, as stated before, the EIB will be involved, and the EIF, they will provide detailed information on what calls for application have been opened for intermediaries. We're glad to hear that Bulgaria and the region have registered interest in applying for this type of financing. There are plenty of new instruments which were not available during the Juncker plan. These are guarantee instruments, debt instruments such as the sustainability portfolio guarantee, supporting the banks so that they could lend financing to companies that wish to achieve the Green Deal goals, niche areas, climate, infrastructure funds, some of which will target Bulgaria and the region. In their investment strategy. We expect other banking partners to join in and submit their projects, as including the national portfolio of Bulgaria will be started soon, and will work quite actively with the Bulgarian Development Bank. So much from me. My colleagues will provide more detailed information later. I'll be available for the Q&A session later today.
Thank you very much, Svetla, for very interesting insights into the investment committee. With this, we've just finished with the first session on the InvestEU. And I would like to thank all the speakers from the first session. And quickly, as we are slightly behind the schedule, we are moving to the next session about the implementation of the InvestEU. After we learned about the governance of the 4 policy windows, we are now, of course, eagerly awaiting our 2 EIF, European Investment Fund speakers, to go with us through their activities and how they're implementing the InvestEU. And the first speaker from the European Investment Fund is Nicolas de la Vallée-Poussin. He's a finance and strategy professional with 20 years of experience. And in his current role at the EIF, he works on the implementation of financial instruments supporting especially equity investments under the InvestEU program. And the second EIF speaker that we will welcome today is Diana Petrascu. In her current role at the EIF, Diana has been working on designing and implementing financial instruments dedicated to debt financing under the new InvestEU program. And our third speaker in the same session will be Kirill Velichko, who is managing the KBC Group European Financial Instruments Competence Center and the EU-related activities at UBB. And we are very happy to hear Kirill's insights later on about how the EU financial instruments have worked on the ground. So, Nicolas, you are the first one. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present the EIF products under InvestEU. My name is Nicolas de la Vallée-Poussin. I'm a senior officer in the EIF responsible for the implementation of InvestEU, and I work principally on the equity side. And my colleague Diana, who will be presenting next, is focused on debt guarantees. If we can move to the next slide, please. So the InvestEU fund, as you've heard, is 26.2 billion of EU guarantee in support of innovation, investment and job creation. It runs through to 2027 and aligns with the critical thematics of sustainable infrastructure and the green transition, research, innovation and the digital transition, social investment and skills, and continued support for small and medium enterprises across Europe. Next slide, please. The EIF is the largest implementing partner of InvestEU, with 11 billion of the total 26 billion euros to invest in its equity and debt guarantee products. The EIB group as a whole is implementing partner for 3/4 of the InvestEU fund, with the remainder set aside for others such as NPIs. The InvestEU product is the successor to a number of previous initiatives, and so in some ways represents a simplification of our previous portfolio of products. It is a more scalable approach, allowing sectorial guarantees or sectorial contributions to be added as various sectorial programs of the European Union may choose to use InvestEU to achieve their aims, and it allows further countries to join and to adopt the same rule set, making it a single rule book for a large number of different initiatives. Next slide, please. The EIF supports small and medium enterprises and mid-caps across the EU through a number of principal product lines. Equity investments in private equity and venture capital funds as a limited partner are the ones that I'm mainly concerned with. And debt guarantees are provided to lending institutions. So an important point to make, this is obvious to many but not always obvious to everyone, is that we provide intermediated products and we do not invest directly in final recipients or companies. So we provide products that allow us to support funds that invest in companies or that provide support to lenders by guaranteeing their debts. Next slide, please. The EIF InvestEU products are organized thematically and are in support of the key policy objectives that underpin the InvestEU fund at the EC level. Products under both the guarantee and equity product lines are aligned with the thematics you see at the top of the page. Just running through them quickly, the climate and sustainability thematic is aligned with the EU Green Deal. It supports green innovation and transformation. We have a dedicated thematic to support productivity and competitiveness through support for innovation and digitalization. In the equity side, we refer to this as enabling sectors. To support companies in their growth stage and in continued support of the recovery, we have the growth and competitiveness thematic. The social impact thematic is a new area of focus for the European Investment Fund and supports micro-enterprises, social enterprises, and other initiatives that promote skills, inclusion, and education. And finally, we have a specific product to support culture and creativity with a dedicated cultural and creative sectors target area and a culture and creative guarantee product. Next slide, please. Focusing now on the equity product, we have 5 primary windows with over 6 billion euros to crowd in private finance and deepen and develop the market in areas aligned with the InvestEU thematics. Each of the thematics you see on the screen can be broken down into a number of specific target areas, the details of which you can find in the more detailed information available on our website, eif.org, which I highly recommend you go and look at if the products are of interest to you. Applications for investment under InvestEU equity must be made under one or more of these thematic products. I'm going to run through them quickly. From left to right, Capital Markets Union provides finance to funds that support growth companies, diversifying sources of financing for scale-ups. The Enabling Sectors thematic supports sectors that contribute to and sustain the EU's technological sovereignty in critical industries and sectors. So, as an example, this would include life sciences and health, space, semiconductor chips and technologies, defense, industrial technologies such as robotics, automation, advanced materials and manufacturing technologies, and biotech. Climate and Environmental Solutions supports research, development, commercialization and scaling of clean technologies and environmental sustainability solutions. This includes target areas such as mobility, transport, the blue economy, agriculture, food tech, industrial decarbonization and energy. Digital and cultural and creative sectors is about strengthening the EU's digital sovereignty, supporting the digital transition and supporting culture. Its target areas include AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, education tech, distributed ledger technologies such as blockchain, and cultural and creative sectors. The social impact equity product focuses on social enterprises, skills and education, impact investing, and social innovation. This very rapid overview barely scratches the surface of what the definitions of each of these target areas are and the things that we can support. And so again, I highly advise you to look at the website to see the more detailed examples of what it is that we do and the more detailed descriptions of each of these areas. Next slide, please. In parallel with these vertical thematic products, InvestEU Equity has a number of, let's call them transversal or horizontal goals. We are able to provide a greater intensity of support to funds that align with these goals, and in some cases we have specific products to support funds that are in these areas. By a greater intensity of support, what I mean is that typically we will invest up to a maximum of 25% of a fund's fundraising round. Under these specific areas, we can go beyond the 25%, sometimes quite a long way beyond it, in order to help funds that would otherwise perhaps have trouble raising their target fund sizes, or that are in areas of particular interest to us. So going through these quickly, to support scale-ups, we have the Escalar product, and that allows us to take a different class of share to other limited partners. In this case, we reduce our expected return in exchange for reduced risk. To support IPOs, we invest with a specific product under InvestEU in funds that focus on helping companies through the IPO process and supporting them after they list. We provide a greater intensity of support to funds focusing their investments in moderate or emerging innovator countries, as defined under the European Union Innovation Scoreboard. We provide a greater intensity of support to funds that reach certain thresholds of female representation at founder, investment committee, or senior management level. In addition to those you see on the screen, we have other areas where we provide more intense support, such as first-time funds or funds focusing on technology transfer. Next slide, please. Finally, our Climate and Infrastructure Funds product is focused on larger investments in climate and infrastructure, where the previous climate and environmental solutions thematic focused on SMEs developing innovative solutions, so new technologies for climate. This product provides supports to funds that are operational in backbone infrastructure and industrial ecosystems. Again, we scratched the surface, and I encourage you to look at the more in-depth information on our website, but that's all we have time for. And so at this point, I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Diana Petrascu, who will introduce our guarantee products. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicolas. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go now through the portfolio guarantee products that the EIF is offering under InvestEU. So under InvestEU, the EIF has available 6 thematic guarantee products. Most of them are a continuation from the previous MFF. So the first one is the SME competitiveness. It's a continuation of COSME LGF. It is focused on SMEs, and it boosts access to finance for higher risk SMEs. It improves for improved conditions, so it provides for improved conditions for debt financing, such as reduced collateral, increased maturities, and it also supports new types of financing, such as financing to startups and subordinated loans. The new entry under the SME competitiveness compared to COSME is the fact that we have under SME competitiveness the solvency support instrument, which provides for solvency and recapitalization support for SMEs affected by the COVID pandemic. The Innovation and Digitalization Guarantee product, it is a continuation of InnoFin. It supports innovation through improved products, services, intellectual property. It also supports fast-growing and research and innovation-intensive enterprises. The Innovation and Digitalization Guarantee product has also a digitalization angle, so it supports digitalization of enterprises in business model, supply chain management, business development, customer relationship management. The next one is the Cultural and Creative Sectors Portfolio Guarantee, which is a continuation of the CCS Guarantee, and it provides for support for debt financing in audiovisual, multimedia, visual arts, architectures, and performing arts. The Microfinance and Social Guarantee is a continuation of the EASY Guarantee, which is dedicated to sustainable employment and social inclusion, especially for vulnerable peer persons, and social enterprises to support the active labor market and job creation. The Skills and Education Guarantee is a continuation of the Skills and Education Guarantee product. It is dedicated to support access to financing for students, learners, enterprises investing in the skill set of their workforce. It is also dedicated to education providers and providers of additional services in education. Last but certainly not least is our brand new Sustainability Guarantee product. The Sustainability Guarantee product is dedicated to improve access to financing for sustainable enterprises, as well as green and sustainable investments, and enhance accessibility, which contribute to Europe's green and sustainable transition. The eligibility criteria were designed in the spirit of the EU taxonomy for sustainable finance, adapted to the specific needs of the target final recipient. The criteria for the Sustainability Guarantee were designed across all 6 pillars of the taxonomy, namely climate change mitigation and adaptation, transition to circular economy, water resources and pollution prevention, protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems, sustainable forest and agricultural practices, and also having a social angle through the social accessibility investment. Next slide, please. Under InvestEU, the EIF will offer two types of guarantees, so there will be capped and non-capped portfolio guarantees. You can see here a comparison between our portfolio guarantee products and what type of characteristics they have. The novelty under InvestEU is that the financial intermediaries can apply in one go for more than one product and can elect, subject to the product and type of guarantee, what they want to support. The capped portfolio guarantee is available for all the products. Under the capped guarantee, the guarantee will cover losses incurred by the financial intermediary subject to the guarantee rate and up to a certain maximum amount, which is the cap amount. The uncapped portfolio guarantee is available for some of the guarantee products. The uncapped guarantee, so for the uncapped guarantee, the guarantee will cover all losses subject to the guarantee rate. The maximum guarantee rate ranges between 50% in the case of SME competitiveness for higher risk 1 and 2, and up to a maximum of 80%. The guarantee fee so there is a new novelty is that the EIF will charge a guarantee fee for all products except for the social and skills and education products. The guarantee fee for the capped guarantees is 20 basis points and 75 basis points for the uncapped guarantee, except for the subordinated debt where the guarantee fee will be 120 basis points. Next slide, please. You can see here that we have a very diverse range of target final recipients based on the type on the guarantee product. So we have SMEs, we're supporting SMEs, we're supporting small mid-caps, natural persons and housing associations, small public enterprises, micro and social enterprises. Generally, the minimum maturity for the debt financing provided is 12 months, with the exception of the solvency support instrument or higher risk 3, as you see, category as you see it here, where we have 3 years, and for the micro and the social, where we have a minimum of 3 months. Next slide, please. Thank you. So you have here an indication of the overall available financing for the financial intermediaries. So on the guarantee side, the biggest allocation, the biggest capacity that we have is under the sustainability guarantee. Then it's followed by the innovation and digitalization and the SME competitiveness. Very important to say is that under InvestEU, the EIF will also provide additional support to technical assistance and advisory services via the EIB advisory services. Next slide, please. We have launched the call for expression of interest for both the guarantee and the equity products in April. We already received a significant number of applications, so we encourage interested potential financial intermediaries to access our website in order to see the guarantee product in detail, the term sheets and the requirements for the call for expression of interest. We also have a very visual website, engage.eif.org, where you can see the products, the term sheet design and the characteristics of the products in a very user-friendly way, and you can have all the features explained there. If you want, the call for expression of interest is on our website. We have it open, the call for expression of an interest on up until the 30th of June 2027, and for the guarantees you can apply via a dedicated email. We will have also a session later on where we have the debt and equity Q&A, so our colleagues will be there to answer all your questions. And now I will hand over to Kirill to give us the insights on implementation for the EIF products in Bulgaria. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
Hello from me. My name is Kirill Velichkov, and I'm responsible for the financial tools instruments in UBB and also in the Belgium GBC group.
Next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
Next
slide, please. Briefly, for UBB and KBC group in Bulgaria, Right now, we are the largest banking and insurance group on the market. 11 different companies are included within this group: UBB, KBC Bank, DCI, and other companies. You can see them there. Next slide, please. And this is the largest Belgium insurance group. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What I can say here briefly for our experience in relation to financial tools, we have a very rich experience, and these programs are very useful for our clients, and you can see there the level of use of these programs within our business. Right now, we have a current exposition of 1.7 billion left that are covered by financial instruments. 90% of all microcredits that we grant through these financial tools, and 70% of the credits for the SMEs. We also have a very good cooperation with the European Investment Bank, EIF, and all other institutions, international and national institutions, who offer this type of programs. Right now, we have also 11 programs for active including of credits with guarantees. Next slide, please. I would like to take you back a little bit in time. 11, 12 years, 2011, when in Bulgaria, one of these first programs was launching in Bulgaria, the program Jeremy, and it was very interesting because it was with the European Investment Fund. We signed this contract, and in the beginning, there was a very small interest for these programs. I know Jeremy was extremely beneficial as parameters, but the market thought the grant programs were the most important, and it took us a whole year to be able to explain to our clients and our colleagues what are the benefits of those grant programs and financial tools. And suddenly, more and more clients started coming into the bank and started asking not for credit, but asking for a Jeremy credit. And this became like a symbol of a very successful product on the market. Next slide, please. In 2015, the European Fund for Strategic Investment appeared, and the Juncker Plan as well. We applied and we won the first program, the program COSME, on the market. That was the first operation in Bulgaria of Plan Juncker, and it was very interesting. I remember one meeting with around 300 participants from the whole business area. We were talking about the new COSME program. People were discussing all these interesting parameters of this program, but people were not very excited about that. And at the end, someone said, "Oh, but we want Jeremy." But then we started joking, but COSME is Jeremy's sister. And this became like our narrative. And COSME became an extremely successful program that we implemented together with the European Investment Fund. Next slide, please. And until 2020, when we signed the next COSME agreement, and under COSME, we have 1 billion of credit, and we saw how our market started implementing these programs. And next slide, please. After COSME, COVID-19 came, and suddenly all started feeling these very big difficulties. Difficulties for people, difficulties for economy, and then the guarantee programs, they played a key role in supporting banks and the business to continue acting in this serious situation. We granted a lot of money to different companies and different entities in relation to COVID, and our cooperation with the European Investment Fund UBB, more than 10,000 company credits has granted already for more than 10 billion LEV. And next slide, please. We were explaining about today. InvestEU, this is the new program of the European Union for supporting business through the commercial banks, including. In UBB, we applied for InvestEU. We were the first in Bulgaria to apply for InvestEU. I think we were one of the first one in the European Union. But we will offer a few different products, similar to Innofin, similar to Cosme, green products as well. But what is interesting here in InvestEU, simply said, is that these will be credits for small and medium enterprises, but also for mid-cap enterprises with up to 500 employees. They will have preferential conditions because we will have up to 80% guarantee on the credit, and the credit could be up to 7.5 million of credit. These are large credits, not only for small and medium enterprises, but large enterprises. They will have preferential level of compensation that will be asked by the bank. They will be good for standard deals, but also for innovative enterprises and also for green projects. And if we go to the next slide. Next slide. What I would like to summarize for the role of all these financial instruments in that for us, InvestEU will be key for the development of the business and the green transition. And we expect in UBB to start our products under InvestEU in the beginning of the next year. And I would like to use this opportunity, and I'd like to say thank you to our partners from the European Commission, European Investment Bank, European Investment Fund, and all international and national institutions that we collaborate with to grant these credits for the excellent cooperation, because they support business. And I'd like to say that UBB will continue to be the leader in offering these preferential products for SMEs and also for supporting the green transition for the business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirill, and of course, Diana and Nicola, for sharing with us many information. We will have to advance now. We are slightly late behind schedule, but we still need to introduce some questions that came into Slido. And we see them now on the screen. And the first question, that it's of course for our dear EIF colleagues, is how does the call of expression of interest work?
Yes. So what you need to do is go onto our website, eif.org, and to the right of the front page in the third column, there's InvestEU Portfolio Guarantee and Equity Products, two separate links. Under those, you will find two separate calls for expression of interest, one for the guarantee products, one for the equity products. It's a standard call for expression of interest and a standard application. You can find in there the term sheet and then a lot of descriptive text and explanations about how the products are structured. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the product before you start going through any application document, because it'll help you understand what's in it. Those applications are received by our front office. The front office then processes them over a period of time. On the equity side, the average time from an application to the distribution of funds can be anything from 6 to 9 months to give time for due diligence, and given the amount of requests in the pipeline. It's pretty self-explanatory once you're on the page, and our teams are always here to help you through it. You're more than welcome to reach out to us if there are any questions.
Thank you, Nicola. And to remind you, we will have a question and answer session also during the dedicated session later on. Now to continue, of course, dear participants, you're numerous today, and we hope that you found the first part interesting enough that you will continue with us. And as it has been rather intense now, you all deserve a comfort break. Don't go away. You can also stay behind the screens as we will be showing some interesting videos. And I suggest we resume in 9 minutes, actually 11:15 local time in Sofia, 10:15 local time Brussels, Luxembourg. Thank you for now.
Whenever you have a new idea, one of the biggest hurdles is to convince other people that it actually is a good idea.
For a startup company, it's very hard to get a financing.
Without the EU financial guarantee, we are dead. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's totally 100% right.
Without it, we would have had a hard time getting this product on the street.
We are the first company in the Czech Republic that that bank ever supported as a startup company.
It's not like a shoemaker. He can do shoes maybe for 100 years the same way. Not in our world. Innovation is the one driving force.
What do you see? A little spark slowly growing bigger, lighting up the dark. Imagine what it could be. What do you see? A robot that feels sustainable fiber, or software that captures the world in 3D. Wooden wind turbines, transparent solar panels, reinventing the way we use our energy. A tiny idea, so crazy it's hard to believe. An invention with the intention to change the world drastically. It's something we would love to see. So, tell us what you need to reimagine, to reinvent the world. We can give you a place where unicorns are born. You can change your dreams, helping hands, machinery, bigger plans, or just a chance to show the world something they haven't seen. So, what do you see?
Culture essentially is a catalyst that triggers a variety of positive effects in the society, like innovation, free self-expression, jobs, and purpose. But culture is definitely also a glue for different social groups to meet, interact, and have a common purpose. In the bigger scheme of things, our vision is to use culture in service of the society. I'm Helen Sildna, the director of Shiftworks in Tallinn, Estonia. Shiftworks essentially is using creative tools and clever curation to bring positive impact in the society. And we do that mainly through the two festivals that we promote, Tallinn Music Week and Station Narva, but also other cultural events, productions and communication projects. In a way, our festivals are like a way to show a spotlight onto what is happening in the society. Tallinn Music Week, of course, is the biggest venture that we do in our company that takes 70% of our annual budget. And there are months when we do need bridge funding to be able to balance out the financial obligations throughout the years. So essentially what was really needed by us and what thankfully is now available due to European support measures is exactly that type of bridge funding. Unfortunately, it is not easy to get a regular loan from a bank. We wouldn't be a very attractive candidate or a client because in their eye, we lack assets in its traditional sense. We don't own property, we don't have financial assets like this. And in general, I think our sector needs to be better in describing the value that we create in the society. In the end, this EU support gives us the opportunity to have peace of mind and actually do what we do the best.
Hi, my name is Fergal Ward. I'm the founder of Capri Medical. When we looked at the migraine market, we saw that it's the third most common disease. It's the seventh most debilitating disease. Globally, there's 1 billion people who suffer from migraine. There wasn't consistent efficacy of drug treatment for chronic pain patients. So we looked at this and we said there has to be a better solution. We were one of the first companies to be awarded an EIC Blended Finance Award. So that included almost 7 million euros, 2.4 million euros in grant, and then 4.5 million euros in EIC equity as well. We've had some great introductions into some of the investors on the portal, and we continue to communicate with those. The portal has been a fantastic resource. You know, some of the providing access to investors that you just would not have heard about. And then we've also had a direct one-on-one introductions to investors from the portal and from the team as well. So that has been amazing.
I'm Silvia Fluch. I'm a biologist from Ecoduna, an Austrian microalgae producing company. Ecoduna started as a very interesting project. The two founders were convinced that microalgae in future could provide biofuel to mankind. The European project was €2 million, where co-funding had to be found in the region here. Just a year ago, we started to build the big plant. As you can imagine, with a technology like this, where everything needs to be newly established, it was not so easy to find partners. And here again, the European Commission helped us to bring €18 million to the green life of Ecoduna. Now we are here in a 1-hectare plant and will be able to produce 100 tons of dry biomass per year. So what my advice then would be to SMEs, be brave and step forward with bigger amounts and don't limit yourself by having not enough financing.
Dear participants, welcome back after the short break on EU Finance Day for Bulgaria. We have now two more interesting topics that we need to cover and bring it closer to you, namely the European Innovation Council and the Enterprise Europe Network. First, in the next 45 minutes, we are going to focus on the European Innovation Council. It is a flagship instrument which is already up and running under Horizon Europe, the current EU Research Framework Programme. And the European Innovation Council supports game-changing innovations with direct equity investments from early stage to scale up with a budget of more than 10 billion euros. I'm very pleased to introduce you now to our next speaker, Lucia Morgante. She's an investment manager and project advisor at the European Innovation Council, and she will present to you the EIC Fund with a focus especially on the EIC Accelerator. Lucia, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here and for this presentation. I'm very happy to be here today with you and present to you the European Innovation Council, but also to share with one of our beneficiaries this panel in order to give you, to present you the European Innovation Council under two different perspectives. Let me start by presenting you the European Innovation Council as one of the most important European initiatives to support innovation. In it, with a budget of 10 billion euros, the European Innovation Council aims at identify but also support breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovation across Europe. This instrument provides a unique combination of a DARPA approach for visionary research on future technologies with an accelerator to scale up innovative startups and SMEs. We will see it in more detail analyzing the main funding scheme of the EIC. Furthermore, the European Innovation Council, the EIC, is set up to become the bigger deep tech investor in Europe, thanks to its investment arm, the European Innovation Council Fund, the largest VC deep tech in Europe, with a budget of over 3 billion euros. The European Innovation Council has been created in order to build a community of researchers and innovators in order to shape the future of Europe, but also to enhance the European innovation ecosystems thanks to partnership with other entities like the EIT, ERC, but also other national and regional agencies and ecosystem builders. Next slide, please. The European Innovation Council started with a pilot phase of 3 years and last year in March 2021 it has been launched as a fully fledged entity and as part of the Horizon Europe program, and this involved also the creation of a new Brussels-based executive agency, the European Innovation Council and SME agency EISMEA. We can see here how it's positioned under Horizon Europe under Pillar 3. Next slide, please. I would like to show you the main feature and characteristic of the European Innovation Council designed to support innovators in any field at any time and from anywhere in Europe and its associated countries, with a particular focus on deep tech and disruptive innovation. This is a mainly bottom-up instrument. This means that the majority of funding will be awarded through open calls with no predefined thematic priorities, the EIC Open, which is designed to enable support for any technologies and innovation cutting across different technological and innovation fields. But this is mainly a bottom-up instrument, not only. This means that we also have a challenge-driven approach. We channel part of our budget through the EIC Challenges calls, providing funding to address specific innovation breakthroughs. And these challenges take into account EU priorities for transitioning to a green, digital and healthy society. We also know that money is important, but it is not enough. This is why we enhance the direct financial support with a wide range of business acceleration services. These entail access to coaches, access to mentoring, but also facilitating relationships and interaction with investors. Under Horizon Europe, we also set up a new way of managing our projects, what we call proactive management. And thanks to our program managers team, we provide a tailor-made follow-up of our projects. Next slide, please. We are providing within DAC our funding through three main funding schemes: DAC Pathfinder, DAC Transition, DAC Accelerator. DAC Pathfinder support advanced research to develop the scientific basis to underpin breakthrough technologies, while the transition scheme is providing support to validate technologies and develop business plan for specific application, while the AC Accelerator is designed to help to support companies to bring their innovation to the market and scale up. We can see easily how the EAC covers the full spectrum of innovation. From the Pathfinder to the Accelerator, thanks to the technology readiness level, it's all the TRL are covered. The Pathfinder, namely the Pathfinder, covers TRL from 1 to 4, with providing granting support of up to 4 million euros, while the transition scheme is covering it's covering the TRL from 3, 4 to 6, providing financing support with grants up to 2.5 million, while the Accelerator is covering TRLs from 6 to 9, providing a unique form of blended finance, combining grants and investments. The investment up to 15 million euros. Next slide, please. Here, the AC Accelerator, I like to present the AC Accelerator, first of all, under our work program. It is important to tell you that our priorities and our strategic priorities and our policies are included on a yearly basis in a document called the work program. We already published under Horizon Europe 2 work program, and this year we announced budget of for the AC Accelerator of 1.16 billion. Can we move slides, please, so I can present the Accelerator? Thanks. And we see that the Accelerator recall the bottom up approach. The majority of funding indeed are poured through the open calls, while part of the budget is channeled through the challenges. In this work program, we have two challenges: the Fit for 55 and Open for Strategic Autonomy. And we can see here that we have three different. We had for 2022 two main calls. These are cutoff dates. I would like to quickly mention that the cutoff dates are not deadlines. You can apply anytime during the year for the European Innovation Council. The application process is a four-step application. It's a four-step process, and during this cutoff date that you can see here, we gathered the successful application for the first three steps, and inviting the successful applicants to the fourth step, which is the interviews one. Next slide, please. The AC Accelerator has been designed to feel a persistent and critical financial gap in the European technology transfer market. Indeed, despite the channeling of significant amount of grant funding to research and innovation project, not only at European level, but also thanks to national schemes, very few operations managed to attract private investment and also to reach the commercialization and scale-up stages. This is where the EAC Accelerator is acting, aiming at indeed bridging the valley of death of European innovation. The EAC beneficiaries are innovators, startups, and SMEs with a particular focus on deep tech. With a particular focus on deep tech, and the EAC Accelerator is targeting marketing creating innovation that are too high level risk for traditional investors, public and private ones. Next slide, please. The European Innovation Council is supporting the innovations thanks to this what I mentioned as a unique blended finance financial scheme. Next slide, please. Which is providing a combination of grant and investment part. The grant part is up to 15 million and ranges from $500,000 to 15 million, complementing the grant, which is up to 2.5 million. The grant part is covering the innovation activities, which means basically the activities that are from TRL 5, 6 to 8, while the equity is helping our companies to scale up and the deployment of its innovation. Can we move slides, please? Thanks. We also have a grant only and grant first option here. Can we move slide because thanks. I would like to mention before the grant only and grant first, and then to have a deep dive into the blended scheme. The grant only, with the grant only, the EAC is providing financial resources to cover the innovation, the research and innovation activities till TRL 8. But our applicants must provide evidence to have sufficient financial means and resources to cover the deployment and commercialization phase. Why? Because we do not want to provide financial resources to an innovation that risks to be blocked before the commercialization stage. And for the grant first, we provide funding to innovation that requires still work to validate and also to assess its commercial potential. This kind of innovation are those relatively at early stage, let's say TRL 5, 6, but not only, but mainly. And these grant first companies are eligible for a follow-on equity component, which is subject to a milestone assessment, attesting that innovation activities are developing well. And we constantly monitor the grant first companies in order to be ready to proceed with the investment part. Next slide, please. The blended finance, namely the grant component up to 2.5 million, is designed to cover the 70% of the eligible costs. Our projects are, in average, are activities that should be completed in 24 months. And while the investment component takes the form of direct equity or quasi-equity, namely convertible loan agreements. And the investment component is implemented by our investment vehicle, the EAC fund. Next slide, please. The European Innovation Council Fund. The European Innovation Council Fund is is a venture capital fund. Is a fund dedicated for investment in companies selected by the European Innovation Council Accelerator. This is an alternative investment fund, and the European Commission is the only shareholder of the fund. The European Investment Bank supports the fund as investment advisor. We recently also appointed an external alternative investment fund manager, which is the EAC fund manager, managing making investment decision, but also managing our portfolio of companies. The European Innovation Council has been incorporated in 2020 under Luxembourgish law. It's an open-ended finding aiming mainly at crowding other investors. This is the most important feature of the EAC fund, because the investment part, the implementation of the investment part is designed to help the scale up of European innovation, but also to build a large network of capital providers and strategic partners which are suitable for co-investment and follow-on funding. I will be stopping here and over to you, Aspero, to continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lucia. I will just briefly introduce Asparo, but also remind all the participants, as I saw a question, all the presentations will be available at the event website. So do not worry if you missed some important details from Lucia's slides or any other slides before. We will publish them all. And now it's a real pleasure to welcome also Asparo Coelho. He's a co-founder and the CEO of Transmetrics. Transmetrics optimizes transport planning by combining the strengths of humans and artificial intelligence in order to ensure highest operational benefits and reduce the environmental impact of logistics. So super interesting. And Asparo is also a successful serial entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. Prior to Transmetrics that he will present to us now, he founded several other companies in the transport and logistics sector. Now the floor is for Asparo, and later we take also some questions from Slido. Thank you.
Здравейте всички. Приятно ми е да...
Good morning. It's an honor to present before you.
Sure. So that I can start with the presentation. Благодаря. Transmetrics е платформа за изкуство.
Transmetrics is an AI platform which redefines planning in logistics sector.
За нашите цели тя е интересен случай.
It's interesting. It's an interesting case study because we applied for the AIC accelerator twice for a grant only first during the pilot stage. It was not clear for us that we could apply for equity. Then when we obtained the grant, we applied twice. So we've been through the process twice, which is rare.
Значи, ние предлагаме облачна платформа, която digitalizes.
We offer a cloud platform which digitalizes planning in logistics, which is especially designed for logistic service providers of a larger scale. The aim is to use AI, which optimizes logistics by also involving human intellect in the process. This company has scaled up and now we have over 100,000 euros monthly income. We work with large clients such as Kuehne Nagel, Madsen, and we make savings for every client, and our company now employs about 40 people. They are mainly mathematicians, statisticians, software engineers, and logistics experts. We have a logistics focus, and we plan to scale up considerably with the equity investment through the EU and co-investment from private investors, which we are now contracting.
Защо е необходимо да има компания като Transmetrics?
Why do we need to have such a company on the market? Logistics business is very inefficient. 24% of the trucks, over 3 million of the trucks, 24% run empty. 33% of sea cargo travels empty. 40% of them are stored somewhere at a depot. Three trailers break down. These are inefficiencies which can't be resolved because some of them are associated with structural issues, but improvements can be made and millions can be saved.
Също така логистичният бизнес е много голям.
The logistic business as well is very large. We are talking about 9.5 trillion worldwide. It consists of two sides, the shippers or consignors. These are the users of logistics services, and the other ones are the carriers. The carriers are the providers of the logistics services. We are focused on the carriers market. This is a very fast market. 3.6% per year, faster than the economy. So things are going to become more and more serious. Next slide. Why do we focus on the market of carriers? Because they are the ones that pay for the inefficiencies in the logistics. For example, imagine one truck with 4 shippers. Each of those shippers, they pay for the place within this truck. And for them, it is not important whether this truck is full or not. They're interested for their deliveries to be made on time. And the carrier, they pay for all the operational expenses. And when the truck, of course, is not full, they lose money. And this is extremely important for them to be able to optimize logistics. And for the whole of the society to optimize logistics is also extremely important, because when trucks are not full, of course, this means that the same quantity of products will travel, there'll be more trucks on the roads, more CO2 emissions, and of course, the price for this service, which will be included with the final price of the product, will lead to inflation, will lead to increased prices. These are big problems. Of course, by helping the logistics, we help the whole economy to be more efficient. We help the whole economy to be more efficient. It's a large market, of course. But there are many companies, of course, and there are many companies, and we cannot find one solution that will cover all. We focus on 2 axes specifically. The first axis is focused on the different types of carrier services, and the second one is the size of the carriers. First are the large carriers, and next is the small carriers. In our market, we focus from the small global to the large global carriers. And of course, road transport, ocean transport, rail transport, this type of transport, that's where we focus. This is large market, of course, and we expect that our services, software for logistics, there will be 3.6 billion market up till 2027 for our services. And of course, we have the opportunity to expand. And by using these opportunities, we will be able to take part within a market of 10, 15 billions. This is a large market. And then we don't need to really be worried that the market will be overcrowded, and we are not going to be eventually capped because of this overcrowding of the market. For Transmetrics, our technologies is already in use, and commercializations, that is the most important aspect for us. That's why we are negotiating different equities grants to be able to finance this part. We have few elements for us. What is interesting is that clients usually stay with us for 5 to 10 years at least. once they start working with Transmetrics. And this is a really good news because this means that each client is extremely valuable. And of course, for their lifetime with us, they lead to a lot of revenue, which subsequently leads to gives us stability as a company and stable future. Attracting new clients is very difficult, of course. First, because they need to be convinced about the benefits of our services. The implementation is difficult. The process of selling is very long. That's why the price of expanding is very large. Attracting a client, signing a contract with a client is very expensive. That's why we need to fund the company in these directions to be able to expand the company as much as possible, because it's extremely important to be able to retain clients and to retain our place on the market.
And the next one.
And what we do exactly. Right now, the logistic companies, they plan their resources by using a system for transport management. They don't really offer a lot of strategic planning. They don't assess the necessity of capacity. Therefore, the data is put in Excel and manually everything's been analyzed, everything's calculated, everything is calculating what is necessary, resources. This is a very burdensome process and it leads to many errors. And as a result, we get to the inefficiencies that I have already mentioned. And that's why we need to replace this manual planning with an integrated AI platform, which will help the logistic companies. It helps focusing on logistic programs and not really focusing on Excel tables. And this leads, of course, to a very efficient planning and to very serious results and savings. In relation to the artificial intelligence, right now there is a new innovative wave in IT in terms of logistics. First, most companies already, they have good system for transport management. They generate a lot of data of what is happening. You can use data mining, you can use statistical models to be able to understand the business. And in second place, the new trucks already, they have GPS, they have telematics, and this data accumulates, but no one is really using it for anything, and only 10% of this data is really used. And transocean carriers already, they install GPS on the containers, but this GPS data is not used a lot. In the warehouses, different cameras are installed, 3D scanners are installed. This also generates a lot of data which is not used. And when we include artificial intelligence, we'll be able to use data mining and to accumulate this data, use this data, which can be very beneficial because we can forecast future inefficiencies weeks before they actually happen. And therefore, if we know where the efficiencies lies, we'll be able to avoid them and plan them in advance. We can solve problems before they become reality as well. We'll be able to solve problems a week before it happens, and therefore we can avoid all those problems. And we can also find different anomalies while they're happening in real time. For example, if a truck is late, we'll be able to forecast the whole delivery, and this can happen in real time. For example, if we see if a truck is not on the map where it should be, and this can of course lead to a lot of savings in the future. And of course, for us, the game is just beginning. It's very important. We don't want to replace the logistic companies because the artificial intelligence is the human intelligence with additional extras, logistic extras. The person can call the client, can solve different problems. They know the market. Something happens, something hasn't been written in the computer, and the logistic specialist can do that. However, the logistic specialist cannot actually accumulate the data, cannot process the data, and this can be achieved by the artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence can generate the most correct information. For example, I can compare that to the airplanes. The planes, they have a system for automatic flying. And of course, this autopilot on the planes, the autopilot in the planes can fly the plane, but if there is something that is not forecasted, if there is something that we haven't planned for, then the human touch is extremely important. And of course, the large data, they give the key for the success of the artificial intelligence. And the more data we use, the more optimal will be our planning process. We add more and more external data to this process.
Next one.
And this is our very strong team. It's the foundation for our growth: logistics specialists, IT people, programmers, people who develop artificial intelligence. Our main engineering resource is in Bulgaria, which is a big advantage because we can control our expenses, and this is an advantage for us. We have a long-term strategy to work within the ecosystem and as a whole to work with the European Union in relations to financing innovations, in supporting innovations that are happening in Europe. From the very beginning of the existence of our company, we started working with small projects to be able to figure out how things are happening and to be able to integrate this area. And of course, when we received the EIC Accelerator grant in 2020, this was a very big advantage for us. Then we continued with equity investment. And now we have an innovation project, which is for the last kilometers within the town for deliveries with electric vehicle and dynamic logistics. And we are really very excited to see what's going to happen to this project with electric vehicles, what's going to do with the money from the European Union as a whole. We would like to improve the level of maturity of our product to be able to sell it faster and attract clients faster. And then we have to focus on the commercial increase of our revenue. And as a whole, we would like to list on the BIM market, which was added to the Bulgarian Stock Exchange. High technological companies are usually listed on this BIM market, and this is our plan for the next few months to be listed there on the main market. And this is our experience with the grants from the European Union, the EIS Accelerator, and this was financed by the taxpayer, and they don't ask for shares in the company, and therefore there are a lot of limitations. It's only for select categories of startups within the green economy, and that's why we were approved. But many companies, because they do not fall within the European Union strategy, of course, they don't have a lot of chance to receive any funding. And because taxpayer money is used, the application process is very complicated and burdensome, and the investment is very large, of course, to be able to participate. And the success rate is not very big, unfortunately. Many people, they put a lot of effort in applying and they don't receive the money. So you need to have this in mind. And when we applied a few times already, and that is not possible right now. The applications are limited to 2 right now. And after that, the company is not able to apply again for a few years if this application have been unsuccessful. That's why it's very important the application to be perfect and to be successful the first time. And of course, it is expected for the company first to use to spend the money and then the money to be reimbursed. And we were able to do that because we didn't have a lot of problems with financial flow, with money flow. The expenses, they have to be made. And this financing was very critical for us. So for us, my impression is extremely positive after what happened once we were successful. And this EIC project is very well organized, very strong. They give you a very accurate information, and it was very easy for us exactly to figure out what is required of us. We never have any problems, any difficulties. That's why I congratulate the European Union for work well done. And what else I would like to say is the very strict requirements for accountancy and accountability. Everything needs to be very well accounted for. And if someone decides to do this at the end of the project, it will be very difficult to fulfill and to meet these requirements. You'll need to really plan all your accountancy documentations, your financial documentation, and you need to start working on that straight away in order to be able to have all the necessary information when the audit is being performed. Another thing, focusing on activities with low DNR. The DNR, it's not really focused on commercial aspects. We had to, we can do really changes in the DNR project, but they cannot be very dramatic changes. So people really need to be very clear how exactly the money needs to be invested and how is this going to be beneficial for the company, because the European Union covers 70% of the expenses, the rest you need to cover. So if it's not beneficial for us, then we're going to be at a loss. Therefore, for us, this funding was extremely important, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that we were given. In relation to the equity financing, we are starting this process right now. That's why it's very early to share any experience, but we are very grateful to receive this investment because this gave us the energy to start something that was very difficult for us before, because investors, they don't like high risk in startup companies, and this type of technologies could be quite risky. And as a whole, we had to put a lot of effort. So maybe it's better to apply for blended finance for the grant and the equity at the same time, if possible, in order to avoid applying twice and going through the process twice. My only criticism, but of course this is something very normal because this equity financing is just starting right now. The deadlines are not very certain right now. We are doing the due diligence right now. Maybe we'll be able to agree on the tranche by the end of the year. We have some investment planned, which is a little bit slow right now, which was a little bit delayed right now. So this equity investment, it validates our investment case, and it helps other investors to become interested in us, and it had extremely positive impact on our company. So thank you very much for this opportunity to deliver this presentation as well, and I will answer your questions if there are any questions, of course.
Not just insightful, but really interesting and I would say exciting, the journey that you're undertaking with your company. And also thank you for all the insights that you provided to potential applicants, the journey that you went through when applying for EU fund. And it's good to know that there is a difference that EU funds can make on the ground. we got a question that would be actually for Lucia, and I think it will be shown on the screen. Exactly, yeah. A question for Lucia regarding the EIC, namely, what size must the company be to get? If you can answer to this question.
Yes, of course. The EIC Accelerator is a mono-beneficiary instrument open to startup and SMEs. Therefore, this already defined the size of the company. In few cases, we also accept mid-caps, but with a fewer size means that a small size means that they have to get fewer than 499 employees. And the second one, I cannot see.
The second one is basically how can the EIC help businesses like the one that Ansparo has?
Okay, yes, thanks, Ulla. Well, as mentioned also during the presentation, we augment the direct finance support thanks to the business acceleration services. These services are helping our companies, namely business, our beneficiaries, to increase their network, for instance, or to have access to coaches and mentoring in order to have a tailor-made follow-up. And this also allowed the EIC to have a deep look into the client's needs to provide support. Furthermore, we have also different services to provide investors network, to enhance their investors networks, namely throughout a platform, a matchmaking platform, but also throughout events, e-pitching, and all. I really encourage applicants or interested future beneficiaries to take a look to the website. Thanks.
Thank you, Lucia, and thank you, Ansparo, for both of your presentations. And if there will be any further questions, I invite online participants to do ask more concrete questions later in the question and answer session in the room 4, where it will be about the EIC again. And now, as we are back on time, we are basically starting with our final session of today. It will be a session about various forms of support to businesses, in particular SMEs, under the Single Market Programme. One of the goals of the Single Market Programme is to strengthen the competitiveness of the industry and especially of SMEs. And we have 2 speakers in this session. Yes, I see it on the screen. Very glad to see here Daniela Chankova. She has over 20 years of experience in EU projects at both business and policy level in the field of R&D and innovation. She's a coordinator of the Enterprise Europe Network for Bulgaria, and this is why Daniela's consultancy work relates to innovation, smart specialization strategies, SME sustainability and resilience, innovation clusters, and cluster management. And our second speaker in this final session of today is Dejan Blagojev, is managing partner of the Innovation Awards-winning Bulgarian IT company Bulbera, if I pronounced it correct. He's a business developer with a proven track record of more than 20 years in the health and lifestyle sector. I'm really excited now to get all the insights from Daniela and Dejan. But Daniela first, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ula. Thank you very much. I will switch into Bulgarian because actually the main target audience for what I'm going to present are the Bulgarian companies. Добър ден. Беше споменато тук.
Good afternoon. Enterprise Europe Network was mentioned as being the major instrument for support of SMEs in the EU. What is the purpose of this network? Apart from lending support to competitiveness of companies, it also has the goal of encouraging introduction of more innovations and scaling up businesses and entering new markets and establishing sustainable business partnerships within the single European market, but also outside of it in the so-called third countries. It's important to know that the services provided by the EN are free of charge for the companies, but in exchange for that, these companies, beneficiaries, are required to show their engagement in collaboration, and if there is a successful outcome at the end, they should share it with the other fellow members of the network. What are the major areas in which our network operates? Sustainability, including the green aspect for optimizing energy efficiency of companies, introducing greener technologies, reducing carbon emissions in various manners. Another important area to mention as a priority is resilience. Resilience with respect to resilience to the impact of crisis. We can discuss with companies the possibilities for optimizing their business models or seeking new business models to increase their resilience to hazardous factors. Internationalization means support in striking partnerships, innovations. The fourth area, it is joint development of products and processes with external partners, introduction to the industry, manufacturing or the product portfolio in order for the company to be more competitive at the European market. And last but not least, digitalization, digital transformation, any possibilities for transformation of processes, products to digital ones falls within the scope of EN. Generally speaking, EN aims to facilitate for demand and supply to meet when a Bulgarian company is in need of something, whether it wishes to sell its products internationally or find a partner. Through the network, it will be able to find a contractual partner to do business with. And when we it may sound a bit too general for some. Therefore, we'd like to share practical examples of our work and how we can be helpful. One type of services are the so-called consultancy services associated with the specific need of a client. They are customized. They are not a fit-for-all kind of service. We first assess the needs of a company, what obstacles they have, how they can internationalize their business, and we use the various tools that the network avails of to support. The example here given here is a construction company in Bulgaria, which wanted to take part in public procurement in Germany and compete with strong companies. It needed a certificate to do so. And with the support of EN and the consultancy services, this company managed to obtain the certificate and take part in tenders, and not only in Germany, but in other EU countries. Another example, a recent one, was a business cluster which wanted to have an international label for quality, a bronze label granted by the European Secretariat for Cluster Analysis. And with the support of EN, it was given support, an assessment was performed, and this cluster received the bronze label. Another example I can give related to finding partnerships internationally. A Bulgarian company manufacturing kitchen equipment needed to find a partner to provide additional film that would increase the lifespan of its products. We sought our network members and found a company which had a similar technology but applied in another field, and they got together and started communicating and managed to agree on adjustment of this technology so that it could serve the needs of the Bulgarian company. Another recent example, a Romanian company got in touch with the Bulgarian EN. It was looking for certain parameters of paper, and we provided 7 or 8 potential candidates for contracting. The Romanian company liked one of them. They got in touch, and now they have a joint business.
Next slide, please. Sorry, next one. One more. Yes.
The services that we offer are quite wide and diverse. We have a rich portfolio that we offer our companies seeking partners. They may be partners for certain business or innovations, or for joint venture, or for joint project development under the framework programs of the EU. We also organize the so-called brokerage events B2B during a large international or European exhibitions or fairs, and Bulgarian companies can participate in a hybrid format. Some events allow participation physically or online. And for such B2B events, we also organized company study tours in Bulgaria and in other countries. When our commercial delegations arrive on other missions, we get them in touch with potential partners. Innovations management, including intellectual property, optimizing the cycle up to reimbursement of the funds invested in the development of an innovation, and move on to the next phase of the life cycle when the company starts generating profits. As far as intellectual property is concerned, protecting it, in what scope, what specificity, what parameters are worth protecting. Access to new markets, I mentioned it several times, to access to the single European market, but also to international markets outside of the EU. Consultancy for sustainable development, including integration of green energy in the energy mix of the company, including various mechanisms for enhancing energy efficiency and introducing the principles of the circular economy that can optimize the operational processes from financial point of view included. Digital transformation and individual consultations for presentation before investments, enhancing communication skills within the company, but also training can be offered for several companies that are to make a pitch before investors in order to persuade the investor that their technology, their innovation is the best to invest in. EN works in a synergy with a number of other mechanisms of the European and schemes of European Commission, which aims to lend support to the company, Erasmus for young entrepreneurs, digital hubs, the cluster platform, for intercluster cooperation, and Horizon Europe being the larger network for financing innovations, which is supported by the so-called National Contact Persons Network. I started my presentation with the fact that EN is the largest for lending support to SMEs. It covers 5 continents. Its membership is dynamic because new countries join in from third countries. In Bulgaria, the EN has offices in 2 commercial chambers, in business clusters, in the green area, in RES, the RES sector, digitalization, and Industry 4.0, and mechatronics and automation. The Innovation Center of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, the Innovation Center in the city of Ruse, Sofia Tech Park is also a member of our network as of the beginning of this year. The Innovation Center in Gabrovo, the EN is coordinated by ARC Consulting, which I'm a member of too. The framework programs of the EU are a major source of financing, and Bulgarian companies are quite aware of that. It's a very helpful tool, but it is only for the best. And before a company gets there, it's good to consult members from the network or other organizations which are active in this sector in order to have a full first screening of which the most appropriate source of financing may be for the specific project idea. This will enhance its chances of success if it applies for the most appropriate source of financing. It will not waste time or money if it approaches not an appropriate source of financing. Speaking of Horizon Europe and of the European policy in encouraging SMEs through various instruments, we should have in mind that currently the Commission has structured its activities and mechanisms of support in the so-called 14 industrial clusters. These are not clusters in the sense that we use in Bulgarian being legal entities. These are thematic clusters bringing together economic sectors and industries with a roadmap through which the best impact on the company could be achieved. It's good when a company approaches Horizon Europe to study this roadmap first, and the industrial cluster and the ecosystem. Horizon Europe is an ocean of opportunities, And what is most important is to find the most appropriate navigation in order to get to the best outcome. In the previous sessions of this event, you were given helpful information on the variety of instruments available, including Horizon Europe and the European Innovation Council. What is specific is that it targets the most innovative companies, or individually, not necessarily in consortium. It has its peculiarities, and you can obtain more information about it through us in order to find your way. But apart from that, Horizon Europe opens possibilities for participation of SMEs in a number of calls for proposals, and the EN can help you with advice in seeking partners to be included in consortia that have already been set up. And it is important for the company to have the capacity. If it develops its own project proposal, it should draft it with its own capacity, because the EN does not develop projects, but it can help you with consultancy, with discussing the project proposal, with the so-called proofreading of a draft version, and giving recommendations on improvement in order to have a greater chance of winning funding.
It was mentioned before by the previous presenters, especially the European Innovation Council, the technology readiness level. It is important when an enterprise starts applying for a tender to be able to inspect the level of technological readiness to see where exactly the enterprise is at the moment, at what level. A certain classification is being used, and the European Commission uses the TRL classification as well. And usually these intermediate phases are being supported before the implementation, the full implementation of a process within the operation of a company. We encourage the synergies with other financial tools which the European Commission manages in Brussels, or for example here in Bulgaria, like the different operative programs financed by the European Fund for Regional Development, synergies as well with the Erasmus program for young entrepreneurs.
Програмите на Innovation Norway, Инновации Норвегия.
The Innovation Norway programs is also specifically on bilateral agreements between Norway and in Bulgaria.
Беше споменато.
It was also mentioned by Transmetrics that the deadlines, the timelines are very important, especially when we talk about innovations, because sometimes one innovation can be very slow. It can be slowly introduced to the market. Sometimes things are very dynamic, like the IT area, for example. So timelines are extremely important. So if a company approaches the Horizon Europe, it is important to know how long it takes between applying for a tender, the deadline for the application of the proposal, the assessment of the proposal, hopefully a positive response, an invitation for financing, for agreement, until the beginning of the implementation, actually, of the project. And when the company has these timelines in mind, the company needs to decide how relevant are these timelines for their project. It was mentioned already for the different types of financing. The grants are not always the best type of financing. The investment can be more flexible as well. The equities can be more flexible. The blended financing also can be very useful with the component of using a grant as well. And the company can always receive an advice as well. The company can always address the network, regardless of which office they decide to use. And you will all have access to these presentations after, but you will also find this platform for seeking for partners. You can seek partners for joint R&D project, Horizon Europe, for joint business, for example, joint development and implementation of innovation, deploying of innovation. Everyone who has the potential for growth, the potential for seek for partners abroad to expand their business, everyone's welcome to join the network. Of course, the network does not support the connection of Bulgarian to Bulgarian company, but if the company is searching for international partners, then this network is a good source for support and advice.
И освен всичко, което
And apart from everything I've said already, it is very good to hear from some of the companies who have used the network services. Transmetrics already, they described what exactly happens in the European Innovation Council, what are the challenges, what are the specificities. So now I would like a company to share their experience as well, a company, Bulgaria, who have used the network services already. Diane, please, you have the floor now. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's always very difficult to be the person who separates you from your lunch, but hopefully you'll be left with a good taste in your mouths after this presentation. Who am I? My name is Dejan Blagoev and one of the associates in Bulgaria. We started 8 years ago and we develop software for different companies worldwide. And 5-6 years ago, while we were looking for different projects, we came across the EIN network. We were working with art consulting. We've worked with different agents of the network in different towns of Bulgaria, Stara Zagora, Sofia. For all these years, we managed to work together and achieve certain things. We received certain awards. We were declared as one of the top 5 companies within the area, within the region. And I wanted to tell you about our business. We heard a lot of presentations. We saw a lot of presentations, but for me, at least 5 years ago, all these presentations sounded very foreign. But for these 5 years, as you can see on the slide, we managed to visit 20 events. We managed to visit around 20 events within these 5 years, and I would like to point out that I would like to say Daniela and her team, that they're very professional. When we started our conversations with them and explained what we were looking for, these events were recommended by them, and they just said, have a look, is this something interesting for you? And we really visited very valuable events that were specifically designed for us. 450 contacts we managed to collect, to accumulate. We talked and we conducted very serious conversations, even with a university in Spain. But of course, the crisis came along, things changed and the business changed. And of course, at the end, we came out with 2 projects, a lot of contacts, a lot of experience. That is very valuable for a company, of course. And the truth is that we tried different financing companies. We tried different financing strategies. Of course, if you haven't tried to apply for a grant, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And of course, we managed to get somewhere, but at the end, the money finished. And unfortunately, it happens within Europe. Even if you manage to cross the threshold, money is not guaranteed. But of course, this taught us a lot of lessons. When you start applying for financing, first you need to know why you need it. In Bulgaria, we usually say, oh, they give this 200,000, let's see what we can use it for. And of course, a lot of businesses right now who used to think like that don't exist anymore. If you need £50,000, don't apply for 200,000. You need to know what you need this money for. And of course, I do recommend the use of a consultant. Unfortunately, in our company, we didn't have a person who knew all the details and who were able to prepare all the documentations.
В успешен пример, искам да ви кажа за нещо, което наистина...
I'd like to tell you something that happened.
Може би преди...
And this happened, and it helped us a lot. It happened 4 years ago. We were developing our own product. We developed software for other people, but we were developing our own product in the area of protecting children online. And this was quite innovative at that time in Bulgaria. Microsoft and Google were not on the market yet. So EA Network, they recommended an event in Skopje in Northern Macedonia. And there we met different people, of course, but we met 2 contacts, and we're still in contact, we keep in touch, and they helped us to prepare a project to apply to receive the Excellence Award, which opened a lot of doors after that. And until 2 years ago, Blue Bearer was mentioned everywhere for this project, for children protection project. We had 100,000 consumers. It was translated in 9 languages, and it was also used in Japan. We had customers who were choosing a Bulgarian product. Unfortunately, the big names entered the market and the small names had to withdraw. And this is an example how we didn't manage to achieve financing because the money finished, but EEN helped us to create a lot of contacts, because right now I have contacts within the whole of Europe, and right now I have my own network. And for everyone who is doing their own business, people know that contacts are extremely important. The network also recommended, I'm not sure how it was called back then, but it was something like an assessment of our innovation management. How do we organize it? What is first level, second level? Where are we on the TRL level? The TRL level, the readiness level, of course, it's very important to be aware of that and to know where you are. And we figured out things about ourselves, about our organizations, and where we are at the moment. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without the network. And Daniela mentioned something. All these services are for free. There are people there who are ready to help Bulgarian businesses. Of course, not only Bulgarian businesses, it's a European program, but I advise everyone to use this network. And if someone offers something that is free and still offers good quality, why wouldn't you use it? And of course, we also decided to protect our brand, Blue Bearer brand, because right now it's a valuable brand. If you Google me, if you Google Bulgaria, you'll see things. And of course, we decided to protect our brand. And the experts in Daniela's organizations, they helped us to protect our quality, whether we should protect the name, whether we should protect the image. We didn't have the know-how, so they explained to us how to do it. Other things that we used as a company from a business point of view, we also upload questions on the EEN page. We upload queries and we uploaded a little announcement on their webpage that we're looking for partners to apply for certain projects. And few companies got in touch with us already. Direct businesses contacted us, but also different academies contacted us who wanted to work together. Well, something else that was very useful for us, when there is something relevant that is happening in our business, we can announce this in the EEN newsletter. For example, right now, we uploaded a newsletter about older people, their families. This is something new for Bulgaria and for the region, and they helped us, of course, because this is additional promoting of information. Another thing that's very useful for me as a partner in a company, I receive up-to-date information about the different future programs. What program is going to be open, what will be the requirements. And the second time when we applied, we already had the idea, we were prepared. And then things happened easier in comparison to the first time when everything was new. So right now I know in 6 months, for example, what it is expected. So I know I have this time limit of 6 months, and then I decide whether I should prepare myself within these 6 months or not. This is a company's decision, of course, but there is a person there who informs you about that. And we know that the best asset is information. Everything else is details. Therefore, I think that this organization really, it's extremely useful. I'm not recommending it though for asking for financing, of course. People always see the financing as the top of the iceberg, but underneath there are so many other useful things that everyone can be assisted with. And the last thing, which I'd like to share with you, and I also left it there to be very useful for all different companies, how exactly to work with the EEN network. First and foremost, there are many teams within the EEN network. Choose the one that's the most useful for you, the most beneficial for you. Everyone works in a different way, offers similar services, but it's very important to have this collaboration between the consultants and your business, because it's a long-term project. You're going to work with them long-term. That is very important to find a suitable partner. Another important thing, who are you right now? To figure out. These people, they work with different businesses. And it's not their job to understand your business. So you need to explain your business. And I'm sure as Baruch also explained what exactly they're doing. Therefore, keep them up to date in terms of all the changes in your business. Because some opportunities usually pop up and you don't know about that. And maybe something very small that you've planned might lead to something larger. And I'm saying that from personal experience. I've seen it. And of course, the last two things, when you work with someone who is advising you, listen to them. Don't think that you know everything. That's their job there. They've been trained to give advice. They have access to information. And something that I really like to do is to experiment and to test stuff. Even if something looks not very possible to happen. So when I went, for example, to Skopje, I went there thinking about something and I came back with something that it's really, really part of my portfolio right now. And it's very positive for my company. And I can say, here, look at that. We train thousands of kids to know how to protect themselves online. Because I like questions. That's why the presentation, 4 slides, I think it was enough, especially when you're hungry. So let's move to the questions now and let's see if there are any questions so we can answer your questions with Daniela.
Very much, both of you. Diane, you were now inspiring and basically you grasped the key messages that we want to pass today, that yes, finance funding is important, be it debt, equity or grants, but what's even more important is this networking that it's all about, that we will have in the breakout rooms, but also access to information. As you were saying, this is all underneath this iceberg, and you're completely right. And businesses or all those watching us today in Bulgaria do profit, do use the Enterprise Europe network. Daniela is really experienced, and do not miss these opportunities as they are for free. Diane is an example here that went through all the phases, and this is why I would also like now to use the opportunity of having Daniela with us on the screen, that we can ask her questions that we got on Slido. I think my colleagues will put them now on the screen. Oh, indeed, you have even 3 questions now, Daniela. So if we can just go through them, and please, do it like you want at your speed. Yes.
Sure. Thank you, Ula. So what is the likelihood of receiving grants from the EN? Каква е вероятността да получим финансиране, безвъзмездно финансиране от ЕН? Много е важно да знаете, мрежата не...
It's very important to know that the network does not grant grants. We don't give grants. We assist the company to understand how to receive this type of grants, to help them to receive this type of grants. We assist them in preparing in their application for applying for these grants, but the network does not give grants.
Колко струва една ИЕН консултация? Услугите са безплатни. Това го споменах и аз.
Dayan, as a user of our services, also can confirm that it's expected that a company should be involved in the communication with the network after assessing its needs and after sending a query about external partners. And when there is interest registered, the company should respond to this interest. It should get in contact with the company, or may refuse because the company may not be fit. It should be involved. It should not just disappear or get silent.
Can small startup receive support? Да, услугите ни са отворени за
micro companies, SMEs.
Разбира се,
indeed, sometimes we may work with larger companies, but only to the extent that this interaction could be helpful, could be beneficial for SMEs and micro companies. Startups usually start as a micro undertakings with up to 10 people. It's important to know that the EN does not have limitations on the sector. Any company that has the ambition or desire to grow, to scale up and work with international partners is welcome to the network. And as Dayan mentioned, we do not know everything. Yet the network encompasses a variety of expertise. One person may be experienced in financing under Horizon Europe, or others may be very knowledgeable about RES financing or digitalization or digital transformations. Others may be very good at automation of manufacturing or smart management of manufacturing process, etc. The EN has a myriad of expertise which is available for the companies. However, the company should not limit itself. Anything that it may ask the EN is welcome. Our support may not always be beneficial, which is normal when business negotiations are conducted. Not all of them result in a contract, but what the EN offers are opportunities, and this is essential. These opportunities, apart from being backed by us, but they should be used proactively by the company itself. The more options are out there, the more opportunities are within its radar, the better possibility for success. And if I may add, Daniela, when we applied at the beginning, when we met, we used to be a micro company of 5 people, if I remember correctly. Now there are 30 of us with 3 offices in Bulgaria and in representation in other countries. For small companies, networking is critical because most events which are B2B are free of charge. I forgot to emphasize that. Now when everything is online, you can visit these events from the comfort of your living room. And EN consultancy services are free of charge, and a company in Bulgaria should have in mind that in Bulgaria it may cost several thousand levs, and a proportion of the project awarded may have to be allocated to the consultant.
Който се е налагало да правим на ден по 14.
But this is usually a sprint that we have to cover. You have to calculate these expenses of man hours, or if you have to buy equipment, it's different in every sector. But for instance, we may have to buy a specific software to prepare or have an ISO certification. So we should have in mind not only the fee of the consultant, but the whole cost. And if the funding of 40 to 50% will cover the whole cost, and then accounting for them. So this is why I said that you should not consider the 200,000 out there, but apply a business strategy with respect to this amount. Yes, indeed, Diane. It's important to consider the business model of the company as a whole, and to what extent what we can offer matches the needs.
Daniela, I think now we are talking. Now we are becoming interactive. So just please,
yes,
if you can
is
take
there a
them on.
list of consulting firms to help with drafting projects who will pay them? What are the prices? What are the grants under some of these programs? Ние не разполагаме със списък с консултантски фирми.
We do not have such a list of consultancy companies out there. We know several of them that we can provide you with. The costs are what they offer. The prices are what they have. They usually have a cost for writing the project proposal plus a success fee, which is an additional markup in case the project is awarded to the companies. This is
if I can see, can a blockchain cryptocurrency company be consulted and can therefore? Да, Както казах, нямаме ограничение за сектори, може да е в блокчейн, в криптовалути.
Indeed, we have no restriction on the area of business, smart technologies or hard technologies.
Как да кажа, оборудване.
Or companies that manufacture equipment, no restriction there. What is important is to find who's the appropriate source of funding, where to apply for funding, what options are out there, and what are the chances, and to what extent the company can can mobilize its own resources, including time and human resources, financial resources. The EN offers financing, consultancy at the medium level processes, but we don't draw up projects.
Covered all the questions. Thank you very much. And I also thank all the participants who are asking questions. Now there is definitely an interest, Daniela. I guess you will have lots of new customers, lots of new clients. Important is that you keep with you that any type of companies are eligible to, of course, approach the Enterprise Europe network. So there is, as Daniela was explaining, there is no explicit size that we would say yes or no, meaning any type of companies. But anyway, we are approaching now towards the dedicated session on the question and answer. There will be 4 breakout rooms. If you want to know more about the Enterprise Europe network, like Daniela was now explaining, and about the 4 windows from the InvestEU, mostly Commission colleagues, that was from the first session, then you should choose breakout room number 1. If you want to know more about European Investment Fund and debt products, then you should choose room number 2. If you want to know more, or if you're interested into equity products, and explanation would be provided by the European Investment Fund, then it's breakout room number 3. And if you want to know more what Lucia was explaining before, and you also heard the inspiring example from Ansbruch, then it's the breakout room number 4. And how do you enter these breakout rooms? Either you will click on the links that you see now on the screen, or there is the second option that you click on the 4 links that we sent you with an email earlier this morning, or the third option is that you click on the links provided directly on our website, the event website. So this would be my motivation for you to enter these breakout rooms and to ask direct questions to the speakers. As Diane was saying before, everything is in the information and in network, so do profit of this. And those who will not join us, and all the speakers and all the participants, I'm now using the opportunity to warmly thank you. There has been really lots of interest in following us. As said earlier, we will post all the presentations at the event website, and also the recording will be available. You will get an email from us sending you all the links. And those also not joining us, don't forget later on to fill in the questionnaire that we will send you. We can always improve, and it's basically you telling us what went wrong, what was good, or what type of information you would like to get in some similar events that we might organize in the future. Thank you very much, participants, fellow colleagues. There is lots of colleagues who are helping at the backstage that this event was running smoothly online. And of course, thank you to the interpreters. So don't go away, enter now the breakout rooms. And thank you again.
Thank you very much.